Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is a special meeting of the Board of Education, pursuant to New Jersey statutes and the rules adopted by the Board of Education. Notice of this meeting was sent to Worrell Community Newspapers, the Star Ledger, and Cablevision of Elizabeth on June 14, 2013. In addition, this notice is posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of 500 North Broad Street, and pursuant to this act, a copy has been filed with the City Clerk of Elizabeth. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and to our television viewers to this June 20th, 2013 meeting of the Board of Education. We are here to govern, provide management oversight, and make policy for the district. The superintendent manages the district. This is a meeting of the board in public, not a meeting of the public. This meeting is being recorded and will become part of the Elizabeth Board of Education permanent record. In order that the recording will adequately reflect the proceedings, please refrain from talking while others are speaking. I also ask that you silence the sound on your electronic devices. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings be accurately recorded, I may have to ask for order periodically should noise begin to interfere with recording capabilities. I am pleased that you have taken time this evening to join us. Thank you for your interest in the Elizabeth Public Schools. There will be a public portion for citizens to address the board. Participants for the public portion must sign in 1 hour prior to the advertised start of the meeting so that they may have the opportunity to speak. The sign-in sheet states the name, the address, telephone number, and reason that the person wants to comment, whether it is an agenda item or a general education comment. Mr. Kenny, please take us through the roll call.
Castilla.
Here.
Gonzalez. Here. Nazca. Padlo. Here. Pereira. Trujillo.
Present.
Montero.
Here. May I ask someone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Trio, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, if you lead us in the Pledge of Ethics.
As a member of the Elizabeth Public Schools professional learning community, I will treat people as I wish to be treated. To do that, I pledge to understand that the school community is a special place, listen respectfully when someone else is speaking by paying close attention and not interrupting, speak in a calm voice and use proper language, dress appropriately for teaching and learning, inspire the best in myself and others by celebrating successes and learning from mistakes, care about others by demonstrating acts of kindness, be a lifelong learner by taking every opportunity to learn from others.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. The President requests a motion to go into private session to consider matters exempt under the Open Public Meetings Act, specifically for discussion of personnel, specifically administrative vacancy.
Motion to go into private, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Trio, second by Commissioner Gonzalez. Roll call.
Bathworth.
We're going to private.
Bathworth. Castilla.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Padlo.
Yes.
Pereira.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Yes.
Montero.
We will return after private. Public, Mr. Kenny, can you do the roll call?
Bathworth. Castilla. Gonzalez. Padlo.
Here.
Pereira.
Here.
Trujillo.
Present.
Montero.
Here. At this time, I'm going to go into the public portion of the meeting. Citizens may address the board. At this time, the microphones are open for public comment to those who have signed in prior to the session. I shall call individuals to the microphone based on the order of the sign-in. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration. The total time of public comment shall be limited to 60 minutes. No individual is able to yield their time to another individual. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually. And the following rules for public participation shall apply. The time limits will be strictly enforced. No personal attacks on individuals. No vulgar or indecent language. A person may address the board no more than once during a single meeting. Speakers should refrain from naming individuals. Comments or questions posed during public participation will not be debated. As a reminder, this is a meeting of the board in public, not a meeting of the public. first speaker that signed up is Maria Echeverria. Good evening, Maria.
Good evening. Just a couple of things. I wanted some clarification on something. Well,
Can you
okay.
speak into the microphone?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay. Back a couple of weeks ago at the last board meeting, there was an amendment on that agenda. Now that was for special services. Back in, I guess, August 2012, that there was, a grant or funding or something for $300,000, and it went from $300,000 to $800,000. So just wondering, I mean, because it says for unspecified, you know, there's no like detail of where it's going or whatever. Because I mean, I know these schools that where Angel is going to, let's say that you guys are funding them $50,000 a year, let's say, to fund a school, but you guys supposedly have no district or no authority to say anything on how they run a school, but you are kind of funding them. So that was like a question on that part. Just wondering if, since there's fundings for all of that, did anybody get that $63,000 back that was out there? And then another thing, I spoke to a lawyer for education, and they told me that my daughter has no meaningful goals and objectives on her IEP, and I would like for somebody to be able to clarify all of that, like why isn't there any meaningful goals and objectives on her IEP? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Our next speaker, I believe it's Pia Carvajal. Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Carvajal.
I come here to thank you very much for all the help to Joseph Biden School 4. We received Dr. Donald Stewart Kennedy to work with our special needs related to communication skills. We have another selected new kid in kindergarten, which he was able to meet, and we hope that the parents ask for the help too, as I asked so long ago for Irena, my child. I thank you for all the people that is working there, and it's been a wild ride. Let me put it that way. A lot of work, and hopefully our kids did well in the test. But everybody's been working. It's been a lot of work. I come to thank you, for everything, and just to leave you in your thoughts. We're losing our guidance counselors that work so good with our special education. And I advocate for all the special kids, special needs in general. I advocate for the ones who cannot have the voice. So if you consider her, a recall, I don't know, any way you could bring her back, it's a win-win situation. She does work wonderful with families, people, and kids, and I could only say so much about it. And about the computers, I know there is other programs, other ideas, If our 2 labs get closed, if there is any way our kids get the technology, that would be wonderful too. Joseph Biden is going to have about 900 students next year. To give you an idea, we went from 600 to 650, 700. It's 850 right now. The school year is ending. So September, I believe, we're going to be 900. So we really, I don't know, I'm sure everybody has a plan, and I'm sure the school is going to have all the need it needs, but we need all the need we could have. We also need one more security guard. It's a lot of kids, and kids are only kids. There is no such a thing as a bad kid, exactly, We need at least one security. Since Ella retired, we don't have more. We've been requesting one, and so far, none of it. So, thank you for that. If you think about that, and especially about art, I'm gonna bring pretty soon my group from Arts Unbound that they went along to form their own non-profit organization, and I'm gonna present them to them the next meeting probably. And I think arts makes a big difference in everybody, grown-ups, children, and if you talk about special needs, it makes a big difference. Consider that if you work with a hyper child, consider that if you work with an autistic child, consider music, consider piano. I was just giving names to the assistant or superintendent about, people that I know have a wonderful heart and will be willing to work with you, helping parents, to help their children to find their way in life. And again, thank you for everything, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Ms. Carvalho. Thank you for your comments. And our last speaker that signed up is Maria DeRossi. Maria DeRossi. Seeing that she's not here. At this time, I close the public comment portion of the meeting. Yes.
To Maria, I think I recall the resolution that you're discussing. I don't know it like full clarity, so I will look into that. I'll talk to Tony as well as Mr. Kennedy about it and get back to you.
Thank you. Okay, next portion of the meeting, we're going to take on the applications for the candidates to fill a vacancy on the Board of Education. And I think the way we're going to go about this, I know we had a committee that was formulated to just review and screen the applicants. And tonight, at the choosing, we're going to have the applicants come before the board, do a statement, or open with a statement if they so choose, no longer than 4 minutes. And then the board can proceed to ask any questions that they may have. And then at the end of that process, we'll open up the floor to the board for any more additional comments, and then we'll take a roll call. Mr. Kenny, can you just read out the list of applicants?
We have Stefano Calella, Stanley Neron.
I'm sorry?
Stanley Neron.
Stan Neron.
Jose Rodriguez. And we had a fourth applicant, Mr. Louis Rincon, who called my office today and said he wished to withdraw his application.
So the fourth applicant, Louis Rincon, called and asked to withdraw the application?
Yeah, so here this evening we have 3 candidates.
Okay, so my colleagues on the board, we have Stefano Calella, Stan Neron, Jose Rodriguez. So I'm going to call up, I guess, to the table in front of us, Mr. Stefano Calella to do a statement and then open it up to questions. Good evening, Mr.
Good evening, board members. My name is Stefano Calella. I'd like to say thanks for this interview, and I have a statement to read. I thank you for this opportunity to consider me to be a member of the Elizabeth Board of Education. Elizabeth has always been my home. I'm a graduate at our school system, and I have a joy of playing basketball and other sports while in this school system. As a former local businessman and actor of the social club of the Rivera Club, I hope to bring a new voice to the Board of Education. I know there's no investments more important than our kids. I want to listen and then help decide the future of our school system. Luke Carn II, a great basketball coach of St. John's, has on his wall a quote, "It's amazing how much gets done when no worries about taking the credit." I'm a team player. I pledge to do my best. If part of this team, to give every student a chance to do better. So I can't continued progress in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colella. Thank you, Mr. Colella. I'm going to now open any questions to my board members.
Mr. Colella, do you have any children in the school system in Elizabeth?
No, I have no children here. I only have 2 nieces in the school district.
You graduated through the Elizabeth Public School System?
Yes, 1991, and I also played basketball for Elizabeth.
What is your current community involvement? What is your current community involvement?
I'm part of the Ribera Club, which it's an organization that gives back to the community of the 6th Ward. They do fundraisers. Actually, we just did a fundraiser of a friend of mine who had cancer, and actually just passed away a couple days ago. We did a fundraiser to raise money for the family.
My condolences.
I'm sorry. Mr. Board Member Pereira?
You said you were born in the city of Elizabeth?
Yes, born and raised in the city of Elizabeth.
I'm sorry, any other question?
Okay, you said you were born in Elizabeth, okay. Then you went to school according to... Did, in part of your speech you said that you had, you were a business owner.
Yes.
What kind
of a sports club.
Sports club.
Yes.
And what do you do today? You're still a business owner or what?
No, actually I work for Local 3 I work for ExxonMobil in Linden, New Jersey.
By any chance did you, because most of the applicants presented some resumes, did you by any chance have?
Yes, I have a resume with me right now.
Oh, okay. Can we see that?
Yes.
President, if I may. Mr. Trujillo.
Mr. Colella, do you see the school district going in the right direction or in the wrong direction?
I see the Elizabeth school district going to the right directions. As a former student of Elizabeth High School, I've seen it from back then to now. I've seen a big change. We've never seen. Back in the day, we haven't seen this. Yeah, I see the school district going the right way, especially with the younger generations. No comment.
No comment? Okay. So if you're telling us that you see the district moving in the right direction, how are we moving in the right direction? Give us like 3 examples how we're moving in the right direction. All right, I'll give you another question. Can you tell me why are you inspiring to serve in this public office?
As a resident of Elizabeth, New Jersey, New Jersey, I have actually my niece is entering the school system, so I'd like to dedicate my time to my community to help the children.
Is your name? Are you running for this position in November?
Yes.
Is this your first time applying for this position?
Yes.
I have more. Okay.
Where?
I'm not sure if I'm quoting you right, but when you opened your...
Right. didn't hear the question.
When you were speaking in your statement, you said that you wanted to listen. What do you mean by that you want to listen?
Listen to everybody's opinion, what they have to say, to make the right choices.
What is your definition of team leadership?
So what was the question?
What is your definition of team leadership?
My definition from team leadership is to be a team player, meaning if we have to make decisions, we all have to talk about it and decide what we have to do, what's best for the kids.
Okay, so if you were the leader of a team, how would you get the team to work towards unity?
Say that again?
If you were a leader of a team, how would you get that team to work towards unity? If the team was divided and you wanted us to all unite, how would you move that team towards unity?
How would I move my team in towards what?
Into unity, like uniting
Into
people
unity?
together, yeah, on one accord.
I would give back what you knew.
Mr. Colella, let me just jump in.
I'm a little nervous right now.
Just really quick, Mr. Colella, yeah, please. First, let me thank you and all the other applicants for being here tonight. And I know you could probably answer this question. You're not a politician, correct?
No,
Never have run for office before?
never run for office.
You probably have never given public speaking before in front of any audience?
No.
So let me just start, Ms. Colella. It's nerve-wracking. I mean, this is like being in front of a Senate panel hearing, and I understand your trepidation and being nervous. So don't take that as a sign of anything other than that, and I know this board doesn't. So I want to commend you and all the other applicants who are here tonight. With that being said, let me just say, do you love your city?
What happened?
Do you love the city of Elizabeth?
Yes, I grew up in the city of Elizabeth. I'm a taxpayer in the city of Elizabeth.
I mean,
There's no other place better.
I think the fact that you're here today would demonstrate you have a passion for the city, to see that the city go forward in a positive direction.
Yes.
You're probably somewhere around my age.
40 years old.
Okay, so you're younger than my age. So, all right. So, but I think we both understand, having grown up in the city of Elizabeth and in and around our school systems, you could probably agree that the city of Elizabeth and the Elizabeth public school systems has certainly made a turn for the best,
yes.
for the better.
Yes.
You would agree with that? And would you agree that you would like to see that continue?
Yes, especially that my nieces are in the Board of Education. Yes.
Okay, there's a lot of work that goes with this job, and if you haven't known already, we got a lot of arrows thrown our way constantly. None of the board members will get paid to be up here, and obviously, if you were chosen or selected tonight, that would apply to you as well as all the other applicants. It's sometimes we question ourselves why we do this. We certainly listen. We're not going to be around the bush. We have a city administration that's incredibly critical of this board. I'm very critical of them. I served on that administration for 8 years, and I'm very proud of the work that this board does. So, you're a businessman, correct? Or was a business?
Yes,
businessman?
was a
Now, I
businessman,
may
yes.
at times get questioned about my own role here on the board. I don't have children in the school system. I love my city, as I'm sure you love your city. I love what's going on here in the Elizabeth Board of Education. And I think that comes out in the fact that you're here tonight. And I think you're, what I know of you, you're a respectable young man. And I think that says a lot about it. But don't take any of these questions or your trepidations to answer anything today other than just being a little nervous.
Yeah, I was a little nervous. It was the first time I've ever been out in front of, a board member. So.
Do you agree with our school uniform policy?
Actually, that was the best thing we ever did.
You think it was the best thing we've ever done?
Yes. The reason why is gives everybody equal it gives there's no other, it makes everybody equal by wearing their uniforms. Meaning, you know, if their parents have money, they dress better. If kids are poor, they don't dress by having a uniform. Having all the kids in the Board of Education, they're all equal.
Great. Any other questions?
I just want to say that you speak from the heart. To sit here, you don't have to have an extensive resume. You don't need that. You just need to have the desire and be willing to work with us and the board and oversee what the need of our community, the children. That's what we're here for the children. We're not here for anything else. You do have to understand we have to put a lot of time into this, to service here. I mean, it's not only a Thursday night meeting. We have committees. We also attend trainings. There are times that we volunteer our own time to go to workshops. Sometimes could be a 2-day, 3-day training. We don't get reimbursed for that at all. It's all voluntary. So we have to, you know, I hope everybody understands what this is. Afterward, we usually come and meet and have little meetings and committees and whatever emergency we may have. So there is a firm commitment for this, okay? We not, board members do not need to have not even a college degree. And I could tell you there's many districts that don't have that. Some of them are appointed so they could have any type of education. So I just see that you're coming from the heart, you're a very united person, and that's what we need to see in every person that we see there. We're not here to take you apart or anything like that, please, any of you, please, okay?
If chosen, I will give 110%.
Mr. Colella, I know the work of the Ribera Club. I've participated in a lot of their fundraising. And to add to President Montero's, not everyone can sit up here. I've seen people with this administration who sat in here, and they've worked in this school district for many years. And even in their interviews to be promoted, have gotten nervous. That is that makes you human, you know. And I'm not I came to this because I decided one day that I wanted to make a difference in my community, and that's what this community needs: people to step up from the community, people who live and love Elizabeth, people who dream about a better Elizabeth every day, and that's what we have here on this board. We may not always agree, but there is a sense of a love and passion for what we do. And the 6 years that I've been here, I've never seen anyone who doesn't have that drive and love for Elizabeth and for the children. The possibilities are endless here in Elizabeth, the work we're doing. And I know you to be a community man and a good man, and I'm glad that you had the courage to apply and that you seek this office. It's important to have people from the community. The process doesn't excel unless people get involved. That's democracy. People from different parts of the city get involved and want to do the right thing. And I'm glad that you're here, and thank you for interviewing with us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Carl, one other question. Do you pay tax? Well, I have to rephrase that. Are you a property tax owner?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason I asked that is because not everyone in Elizabeth obviously has kids in the school system. So as a board, we represent the entire constituency of the city of Elizabeth, both the parents who have children in our school system, as well as the taxpayers like myself, who obviously have an inherent interest that we govern and manage the school system, correctly. So that's the reason for that question. I think it's probably one of your roles for even signing up for this, or applying for this position here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Colella. Our next applicant, Mr. Stan Neron. Good evening, Mr. Neron.
Good evening, President Montero. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Good evening to the Board of Education, board members, guests, and superintendents that are here. My name is Stan Neron, and I'm currently applying for this position. I serve as Director of Youth Services for the City of Elizabeth, and I just want to speak from the heart real quick. I graduated here from the Elizabeth school system in 1992. And at the age of 16, I got involved working with youth. I've been doing that for the past 23 years, working with youth here in the city, mentoring youth. Went to college by starting at School 1 and starting in the AmeriCorps program. And one of the things that happened to me in my life prior to going to college is my guidance counselor told me I couldn't go to college. And one of the things that I believe in is never take anything personal, always tell the truth, never assume, and always try your best. And I did that, in my life, and I was able to succeed. And ever since then, I've been able to impact the lives of so many students and children here in our community, and have worked with families, I've worked with the district to solve some pending issues that the community may have, and I've been a voice of the community. In 2009, I decided to run for the Board of Ed, and a lot of you remember that election, and it was a true learning experience. And one of the things that I understand is that it's clear that you guys are there because you want to serve, and it's the same thing that I want to do is serve. You don't get a check for doing this. The thanks is very little, but you care for the youth, you care for the community, and that's why you do this. And that's why I'm interested in being a Board of Education member, to serve our community, to serve our families, and to make sure that there's some serious fiscal accountability, there's education, equal opportunity education for all our children, and that a lot of issues that our families and our residents and our taxpayers have, we can address, and we can be there for them at all times. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I also just want to commend Mr. Stefano and Mr. Rodriguez for also stepping up to the plate to want to be a public servant and serve their community.
Again, thank you, Mr. Neron. Again, like I said before, I want to thank you for certainly applying for the open seat, and I think it's a credit to you. I'm going to open up the floor now to any questions from my colleagues.
The only thing I'm not seeing, Stan, you said you went to Elizabeth High School as well and graduated to the Elizabeth Public School System. What are some of the best changes that you've seen since you've been in the school system?
There's been so many, it's night and day from when I went to school, so it's not the same system. One thing that I see that you have behind you is, that we're number one urban school district, Elizabeth High School is number 2, and we have the number 3 blue ribbon schools, which is great. But I want to see that all the schools actually become number 1 and actually can rank here in the state. And I also want us to not only be the number 1 urban school district, but to be the actual number 1 school district in the state of New Jersey. I think some of the improvements that I see are, in the high school. I see a tremendous impact and change in what has happened in the high school, the incentives that have been provided for our students. The uniforms, I think, was a phenomenal idea, as we discussed earlier. But I think there's so much more improvement that can be done. There's always room for improvement, and that's why I'm applying to be an asset and, really just try to take it to another level, and so that we can become the number 1 school district here in the state of New Jersey, all around.
Mr. Neron? Mr. Montero, I'd like to ask some questions. First off, I commend you for taking the opportunity or being brave enough to come up and take a stand and apply for this position. So I understand you went to the school district there. You feel like we've had some positive changes. Now, in saying that, obviously, and just, I guess, let me make my statement in that regard. I think words get twisted when we talk about the achievements, that people think that that's all we actually are accomplishing, or we're only accomplishing in the gifted and talented schools, and we don't care about the rest. We have specific plans in place. We have a lot of data that we sort through to make sure that there's some sort of guide as to how to make sure these schools move forward. And definitely, my kids don't go to any gifted and talented school. They go to a community or neighborhood school, and I want to make sure that every school, every student definitely gets the fighting chance that they deserve. But with that said, the unfortunate fact is that this position becomes somewhat politicized too much, and I think that's what hurts the district. In all honesty, I don't work in the city. I don't earn my living from anywhere in the state of New Jersey. And unfortunately, and this is from me just growing up, when I moved to the state, I didn't understand politics. I didn't have kids yet. I didn't know why it was so critical to be involved in not only your children's lives, but your community as well. And being part of this shows me, or has opened my eyes quite a bit. And what I hate to see is just that, is that these positions become politicized. And I'm not saying that you are politicizing it. I'm just saying that's what I've seen in a board member. It just becomes almost like a haggling of who's going to run the district based on managing a budget or figuring out how they're going to do whatever they're going to do with the monies that the district has, instead of thinking about what's the betterment for our kids here in the district, the 25,000 kids. So I just hope that in the best interest of that your commitment or appointment or desire to be in this position in no way, and you understand the politics in Elizabeth, and you understand where I'm coming from when I say this, is that in no way, shape, or form do you feel that you may be conflicted in any regard when it comes to being taking the helm at a seat such as this?
Is that a question?
Yes.
What is the
Do
question?
you feel like you will be conflicted because you work for and basically your income comes from the city of Elizabeth?
Not at all. That's why I stated what I stated earlier with my work starting at the age of 16 as a teenager, to seeing the needs of school children in schools, the need for mentoring, the need for guidance, the need for social services at an early age. Everybody who knows me knows my intentions. They know what I'm about. They know the work that I've done with youth, the work that I do with families, here and abroad, and the work that I would do whether I was on the Board of Education or not, or whether I was with the city or not. I'm a humanitarian. I believe in the work of helping people. One of the mistakes that I think are made oftentimes is that when people do run, no matter what the city is, when they run for a Board of Education position, they think it's a political position, and it's not a political position because it's not you're making decisions for the lives of our youth and our students and our children and our families. So I don't view it as such. I view it as being just a public servant as that, and not as a political position. And I don't think that should be the topic at hand. I think that when we discuss Board of Education, we really need to be discussing the issues related towards education. And we understand one thing that's clear is that people move into a city because of education, and they move out of the city because of an education. So it's our responsibility as taxpayers, as elected officials, to make sure that that accountability is there.
So just for point of clarity, you said that the Board of Education position is not a political position?
I don't view it as such.
I'm sorry?
I view it as a public servant that comes to serve the community. And it's not like running for a governor. It's not like running for senator, congressman, or a city official. That's the way I view it.
Right. I would have to respectfully disagree, because it is a government position, but I think I understand your context.
Yeah, that's the context. It is a government position. But I think when you're looking at serving, when you're talking about the lives of our children, you can't politicize that.
You mentioned the high school and again your passion, but you also mentioned about changes that you would like to, that you will bring into place. Can you elaborate on those changes that you said that we need to make at the high school level when you were making?
I said that there's always room for improvement, so no specific changes at this time, because I think before I can talk about making some changes, I'd have to be privy to the information as to exactly what's going on with our curriculum, how an extended school day is actually affecting our youth, how is it benefiting them, what are some of the additional programs that are offered, I remember at one point in time, and I think it still is, students from all over the state are talking about Elizabeth High School, and we're interested in coming to Elizabeth High School because they feel when they come to Elizabeth High School, they can actually lead with a career, they can actually lead with a path to success. So I think, to improve upon the things that we already have is what's important.
If I may, can you please give me the definition of team leadership?
Team leadership is being able to, galvanize the people that you're working with to come on one accord, being able to be open-minded, and I think I mentioned 4 principles earlier, and that's, being honest, never assuming, doing our very best as a team, and not taking anything personal. I think that those are some good qualities that a team can have that can lead towards team leadership, and being open-minded at the end of the day, coming with a clean slate, and understanding, what are we trying to accomplish, and having a common goal so that we can get to that common goal.
And if you were the leader of a team, how would you get the team to move towards unity?
Finding what our common goal is, and rallying, our troops around that common goal, because I know that everybody may have a common goal, and here it's our youth, it's the education. It's becoming the #1 school district in the state of New Jersey, and I think we can always rally the troops around that, and at the end of the day, we can be united to understand that this is our end goal in mind, and starting with the end in mind.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cirillo.
Neron, thank you for coming.
Thank
you
you.
for applying. I really appreciate the fact that you've seized the opportunity to apply. I think it's important, like I said to Mr. Colella, that people from the community not only talk about it, that they be about it too, right? They got to step up and show leadership. And not to question your motives, but we can't be naive. In your position in the city of Elizabeth, is the mayor your boss? You answer directly to the mayor, or how does that structure work?
I do not answer directly to the mayor. I have a director.
As a director, so you,
I have a director of Health and Human Services.
So your boss is the mayor?
Yes,
you work for the mayor of the city of Elizabeth?
Yeah, we work for everybody works for the mayor of the city of Elizabeth. But you asked me about
I don't work for the mayor of the city of Elizabeth.
I'm talking about it in City Hall.
Oh, okay.
So your question was the structure. I have a director.
I'm interested in knowing if you work
Director
for
of
the
Health and
mayor.
Human Services.
It's a yes or no question, Stan. I just want to know if you work for the mayor.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is because the mayor is really critical of everything we do here, and I think you're aware of that. Are you aware of that?
Yes,
It's very critical. So my question to you would be, are you in support of the mayor's view of this board? You don't have to answer it, Stan, if you can't.
I don't think that's a fair question.
It's my floor. I have the floor now. It's my turn to ask questions, okay?
I think the mayor has his views of the board. I have my opinions of the board.
No, that's not the question, Stan. The question is, do you agree with the vision the mayor has and the discontent that he has constantly perpetuated towards this board, that animosity he has built towards this board? He's your boss, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but are you okay with that? Do you understand that he doesn't like this board and he would do anything he can in his power to destroy this board politically?
I'm clear about that, but I think given
Do you agree with that, Stan? That's the question.
I'm clear about where the mayor stands with the Board of Education. I think given the opportunity to be able to work with the Board of Education, he will do so.
So you're another bridge builder? because Ms. Bathurst is a bridge builder, and I get to see her put one stone across the bridge. And then I say this because I know you're supported by the mayor, Stan, so I'm not naive. See, I have a vested interest here. My children go to school in the Elizabeth school system. I own a home in the Elizabeth port. I raise my family here. So I'm very vested and I'm very passionate about the fact that this seat is open and who we give it to. And I need to know that if you're the one, that I can work with you, that you can check at the door all that stuff that your boss thinks of us and be your own man. And that's what I need to know, Stan. Can you be your own man and disagree with your boss?
Mr. Trujillo, the statements that I've made prior to your question, I think I made myself clear that I'm here to not politicize this. I'm not here to politic the lives of our children. I'm not here to come and create a battle. I'm here to make what's best make the decisions that's best for our children. And that's where I stand on it. I don't want to get back and forth as to how the mayor feels and how I feel and how you feel.
Well, it's important to understand how you feel.
I don't think it's I'm not here to take anything personal either. So the reality is, at the end of the day, let's do what's right for our children. And I think that's what's important. And I think anybody who's a leader of any organization would understand that, whether it be the city or whether it be the Board of Education, we have to have the best interests of our citizens in mind first.
Do you think the mayor has the best interests of our children?
Yes.
And why would you say that? What makes you think he has the best interests of our children?
Well, I happen to be the director of youth services for the city. And I know the amount of work that we've done with youth throughout the city and that we've been doing for so many years. So that speaks for itself.
Why don't you tell me a little about that? What's the budget for the programs you currently administer?
Nothing to do with it.
Yes, it does. I have the floor. Mr. Neron, let's be sincere. You couldn't come here and expect to be interviewed and not be asked questions.
That's fine. I'm not.
I know you understand.
I have no issues.
I know you understand.
Listen, I have no issues with your questions.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
I have no issues with your questions.
Okay.
So you want to know the budget that we expend on our children?
Yes, I'd like to know what the budget is for those programs that you administer.
We spend approximately $1 million in our youth department to service our youth. All right? That covers our staff, that covers our programming, and that covers a number of free programs that we provide to the city, to the citizens here in the city. All right? All the programs that we have are free. The taxpayers, the residents have to pay no fees for our programs. We have after-school enrichment programs. We have special events. We have leadership programs. We have a curfew program. And all these programs are free to the citizens of the city of Elizabeth.
So about $1 million.
Approximately.
Approximately, more or less, and is that taxpayer money, Elizabeth taxpayer money, or is that combined with grants
It's combined with grants. It's combined with tax dollars and special initiatives.
And so $1 million overall. That's a substantial amount of money. That's a big responsibility for you. How many employees do you have under yourself? Your team consists of how many people?
Approximately 60 employees.
16?
60.
60 employees. That's a lot.
It is.
That is a lot. Are they all full-time employees?
They're full-time, they're part-time, majority part-time employees.
So they go down, right? Yeah, the math doesn't add up 60 into $1 million. Somebody's not getting paid well. How much is your salary?
Why didn't you do that to Stefano? Yeah, why didn't you do that to Stefano?
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary, Carlos. Let's.
Okay, I will withdraw the question, Mr. President. Guys, we have to. Well, you know what? Let me direct to where I'm going to my question.
Mr. Trujillo,
okay. The truth is this. Mr. Trujillo. Okay, the truth is this. It's public record, my friend. My salary is public record. Okay.
Mr. Trujillo, my salary is also public knowledge and information, so if you need it, you can look it up. But
absolutely,
I don't think this is the forum.
What I'm going to.
I don't think this is the forum to discuss that. I came here to apply for
a
Board of Education position as a public servant, which is a free position. That's not going to pay me. Okay? So I'm giving up my time. I'm giving up my life, just like as you are. So please respect that.
I do. Can I just question? Folks, can we ask?
So Shay, can I ask? I'm going to ask everyone to please show some respect and courtesy up here to the board and to the applicant, please. Let's have some decorum. The board members here have the right to ask the applicant the questions they see fit. Certainly the audience may agree or disagree with the line of questioning, but the board members have the right to ask the question. So I'm going to ask them to please continue, and please just be courteous, show some courtesy. Thank you.
Mr. Neron, the question wasn't to disrespect you in any way, sir. My line of thinking is this: you are a city employee. You work for the mayor. You're getting paid by the local taxpayer. You'll be making decisions for the local taxpayers. How will you not be conflicted in voting on certain agenda items? That's my concern, and I think that's a reasonable concern.
He's running for election as well. Why didn't you ask him that question?
Miss.
Mr. Trujillo, there is, I know that I'm very well aware that there's board training that takes place, so that I understand.
The files in Italian, Portuguese, he's black. This is prejudice.
I'm aware that
Prejudice right about now, and you're Cuban.
there's training that takes place, so that I understand the code of ethics, and that we understand what we can and cannot vote on. If it is posing a conflict, I'll understand what I can and cannot vote on, and I would make a judgment at that time. You know, but the goal is for us to try to work together, you know, and that would be the goal at the end of the day.
You know, we partner with the SHORE program here,
I know.
and that's one of the and that's another concern. You would be conflicted in some of the stuff we do there, and it's a great program. I mean, I've supported it over and over. I think it's great work.
Thank you.
But it would definitely cause a conflict for you.
Why would you?
I'm sorry?
Why are you saying?
Well, you're the director of the
Well, I can't
of
vote
the
on
program.
that. I can't
You
vote
wouldn't
on
be able to vote on
I
it.
can't vote on that.
I don't think you would be able
Yeah, I
to.
wouldn't be able to. That's okay.
Okay. So you understand that?
I'm clear. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I'd like to ask some questions.
Mr. Pereira?
Mr. Neron, just so you know, I commend you on your work. I know you've spent the better part of your recent life in doing what you do for the kids in the community. So now, part of the stuff that we hear going on across the state for education is charter schools. Where do you stand on that? Are you for them?
I'm here to apply for a Board of Education position. Let me make the statement. My priority is to make sure that we better our school systems and that we invest our dollars in our school systems. Do I believe people have a right to, they want to opt to go to a charter school? Sure, I believe they have a right. You know, if they feel that we're not serving them and meeting the need that we need to do, and we're not doing the best possible job that we can to make sure that we improve our school system. But the priority should definitely be to invest in our schools and invest all our dollars in our schools to make sure that the best possible thing can be done. But I think people have the right to choose.
Well, the reason I ask is not that I'm against. I'm for having a choice, which is part of the reasoning, having or giving parents a choice to where they want to send their kids, whether it's public schools or elsewhere. So the reason I ask it is because when a charter school is created within an area or a neighborhood, it takes away funding from a district, and at the end of the day, without the funding, you end up starting to cut costs somewhere, and it does affect the district. So being for it, not that I'm against providing a choice for a parent, but being for it also entails that we know that we're going to be taking it from the district, from the public schools, and unfortunately charter schools don't get run under the same criteria that we do. So that's why I really asked it. It's nothing political about it.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to comment, then I ask a question. First of all, I commend you for sitting here and answering the questions under the pressure that you've been under for the last 20 minutes, I don't know. But if you could tell me this position, this appointed position will last for about approximately 5 months. So what do you think you can contribute to the Board of Education and to the city, well, to the Elizabeth Public Schools within the next 5 months?
I think leadership, direction, really taking us to a direction where we will not be at a point where we're bickering between the city and the Board of Education and where our priorities are the children. And I think that that's the direction we need to move in because, as you stated, Mr. Trujillo, we're not going to be naive. There are several issues that exist. I work for the city. This is the Board of Education, and I think it's time for us to really tone and really focus with the matters at hand and deal with the education of our youth. And I think that I'm here to provide you with an asset, a different voice, a voice that can help us, a voice that can better the community, and a voice that will represent the people. And we need to hear from another point of view, which is what I've been speaking about the whole time this evening, about my experiences in working with youth for so many years, because you just don't wake up one day and say, this is what I want to do, because we all know that you're not going to become a millionaire doing that. You're not going to, always pay your bills doing that. But, it's a lot of sacrificing that has to take place and a lot of, you got to serve. You got to be willing to be a public servant. And like I said, I commend everybody who has made that decision, past and present, and all those who are interested in doing it here, along with the other candidates that are here this evening. Thank you.
Neron, do you volunteer in any other organizations?
Yes, I do.
What are they, sir?
New Jersey for Haiti is one of the main organizations that I volunteer my time. The YWCA, church. I'm a mentor to many in the community, which is, don't get paid to do that, to mentor youth. My job is one thing, but I also mentor youth, year-round for many years. And, I don't have any children in the school system, but the youth that I mentor are like my very own.
Do you have any children?
No, sir.
Are you a taxpayer?
Yes.
You own a property in Elizabeth City?
I don't own any property, but I'm a taxpayer.
You own a property?
No, sir.
No.
I'm satisfied,
Mr. Neron, what is your opinion of charter schools?
Some of them work, some of them don't.
What's that?
I said some of them work, some of them don't. Some of them need a lot of improvement. There are charter schools throughout, the state that are doing very well, and there are those, that need a lot of improvement.
Do you think there would be a need for them in the city?
Do I think there's any room for them in the city?
In this city, in the city of Elizabeth, in light of what you know about the city of Elizabeth, that we're the #1 urban school district, 3 national blue ribbon schools, 2 of the top best public high schools in the state of New Jersey, top academies, would you feel there would be a need for charter schools in the city of Elizabeth?
I don't know that there's a need, but I wouldn't rule out the idea of having charter schools in the city. But I don't think that there's a need, but I don't know that, I wouldn't exactly rule it out either.
Okay. If you knew, well, what would you think about a charter school that was to open, but was failing? What would be your feelings about that school?
Well, I think as a board, we'd have to make a decision to accept the application, wouldn't we?
What's that?
As a board, wouldn't we have to accept the fact that the charter schools are coming into our district? Right? We would. So I'm saying, as a board, they would have to come through us as a board in order to decide to open up a charter school. Will we all have to be in agreement that the charter school is coming to the community?
But do you think it's the best interest of the children that if the charter school is failing, that the state administration or the governor shut down that charter school?
If it's failing.
What's that?
If it's failing.
If it's failing. That's the case of a story that was in the Star Ledger this week with a failing charter school system in Newark, the Adelaide Sanford Charter School. The governor gave the order, or the Department of Education, Commissioner Cerf, gave the order to shut down that charter school. Are you aware of that particular school?
No, sir.
You're not familiar with it?
I heard the story, but I wasn't privy to all the details as to exactly what happened.
Would you support state legislators who support charter schools?
I don't understand the question.
Well, you come on in a position, as you said, and this is where I guess I agree to disagree with you respectfully about on a position such as a board seat, there are going to be matters of policy and of politics. And one that's right now, it's a raging debate going on in the city, whether we support charter schools or they take money away. I believe they take money away from public education, as well as the voucher program. We have right now in our district a state senator who supports vouchers and supports charter schools. And that's why would you support legislators who support charter schools taking money away from our public school system and putting it in only to the select few who would benefit from those schools?
I would say yes.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with our gifted and talented schools?
Yes, sir.
You're familiar? What do you think about those?
I think they're doing very well.
Okay. Now, a few council people in the city of Elizabeth have been very critical of these special schools. Don't believe that they should exist. Believe that they should be integrated into the full school system. Do you support that thought process?
What's the question?
What's that?
What is the question, though?
The question is, there are council people in the city of Elizabeth who currently serve on council who believe that the gifted and talented schools should not exist. That they believe that they should not be selected schools. They should be integrated or into the general population of our community schools. Do you agree with that?
I think that question should be directed to the council people, not me. I mean, I don't. They have their own opinions. I don't share. Everybody has an opinion.
I understand that, but I'm asking.
Everybody has an opinion. I don't think that gifted and talented schools shouldn't exist.
No, I agree. I understand, but I'm asking for your, thought process. We have a gifted and talented program here in the city of Elizabeth, and we have council people who are very critical of it.
Okay.
What I'm asking you is, do you support the gifted and talented program as it is right now, and would like to see it continue?
I support the school system that you have here. I support all the schools that we have. I think that gifted and talented programs are needed. I think that the academies are needed, but I think we need to work at making sure that all our schools are performing at the same level. So that's my opinion, and that's where I stand on it. Whether I support the individual gifted and talented schools that we're talking about, I think I would have to get more information on the performances and exactly how the schools are doing so that I can properly critique them. Right now I'm not privy to that information, so I can't properly answer the question. But I think if you have schools that are doing well, it's an excellent thing, and it's an excellent approach, and it's an excellent job on those schools that are doing very well. But as I stated earlier, and I've been talking about all night, we need to get our schools on one accord. We need to make sure that we raise the standards of our teachers and the performances of the schools, and so that all our kids can be on one accord.
Okay. I guess my final question, and I guess I'm just trying to separate, and I understand, Mr. Ron, we've known each other a long time, and I respect the work you've done here in the city and the work you do with the children. And I'm just having a hard time, obviously, separating the two, the two entities of the city of Elizabeth and the work that is done here at the Elizabeth Board of Education. And I think we all know too well, it's like the two elephants in the room, they battle. And I agree with you on that it shouldn't be a politicized position, it shouldn't be a political board, but the reality of it is that we have a current mayor and a legislator, Senator Relezak, who are absolutely obsessed, almost to the point of a fatal attraction on this, to attack this board, to be critical of this board. And I'm not going to run away from it because the pressure that they put on this board that serves as public servants, they serve, they give of their time and the sacrifice. So I can't run from that. I can't get away from that. And I respect that you believe that you can separate the two. But we have a mayor who just yesterday wrote a statement to the Star Ledger, once again being critical of this board. And I think the statement went as far as saying that the department, the Commissioner of Education, correct me if I'm wrong, but that he asked that the Commissioner of Education take over the search for our next superintendent of schools. He asked that the Commissioner of Education select the next superintendent of schools here in the city of Elizabeth. Do you agree with that position?
No comment.
What's that?
No comment.
No comment?
No comment.
Well, that's if you were to serve on this board, if you were to be appointed on this board here tonight,
well, okay, let me tell you why I said no comment. I don't want to get into, you're asking me questions as if I'm the mayor. I'm not the mayor.
No, but
listen to me. My name is Stan Neron. I came here to apply for a position for the Board of Education as Stan Neron. Not as Mayor Chris Bowich, not as Senator Lesniak. Okay? I think in order for us to move in a direction to bring this board and this city and this entire city to one accord is we have to stop the back and forth. Okay? It's very important that we stop the back and forth.
I agree.
And somebody's going to have to become the bigger man, and we're going to have to make sure that we put our children first, and that's the bottom line to me, and that's how I feel.
Mr. Neron, I don't think you would have an argument from anyone on this board that would agree with that statement, that I wish we could put this aside, the politics aside, and agree to disagree, but work in the best interest of all of our citizens and children in the city of Elizabeth. That we agree. But think this through, because this is a very, very important question. And it is going to be the single biggest decision that the school board as a whole makes. And we, the school board, besides making policy, we are going to hand off this incredibly successful school district with all the accolades and achievements we've made and progress we've made in the past 8 years. We're going to now have to select the next superintendent who's going to take us forward and continue this momentum. And what your answer?
I would be ready for that challenge.
What's that?
I would be ready.
But that's not the question.
But listen, I would be ready for that challenge if I sat on the Board of Ed. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, whether or not I agree with how the mayor feels, we understand what the situation is at hand. The board is the board versus the city versus the board.
No, the question is, do you agree with the mayor's position that the Commissioner of Education, Mr. Cerf, should select the next superintendent of schools for our in Elizabeth, or should we, the independent school board, select the next superintendent? Do you agree with the mayor's position, or do you agree that the collective body of the Elizabeth Board of Education should select the next superintendent?
I'm not putting myself in that situation. I'm not here to do that. I'm not.
So your answer is?
No comment.
No comment.
But I think if we choose you, again, that's one of the decisions that you're going to have to, again, whether you know, we have to choose, we have to make this important decision.
And I stated that I would be ready for that challenge.
But it's important to see, again, whether, again, it's the job of the board to select the next superintendent, and all the members have to agree.
The job of the Board of Education is to do such, okay? I think the root of the question is deeper than what he's actually asking. So I don't want to start commenting about how the mayor feels about the Board of Education. I think that this elected board has been elected to make decisions for the Board of Education, for the school system.
So
that's the job of the Board of Education. Is it
so
not?
you support the board if we say, yes, we're going to, you know, whoever we elect to lead the district?
If I was sitting on the Board of Education, and I'm a voting member on the Board of Education, I would be ready for that challenge.
Any other questions?
I do, Mr. President. Mr. Neal, have you ever worked for a charter school?
No, sir.
Have you ever done any work at all, volunteer work for them, or none at all? No pay, none volunteer? Been associated with a charter school? Associated with anybody who runs a charter school?
Have I been associated with anybody that runs a charter school?
Yeah, do you know
Sure.
anyone who runs one?
I know plenty of people
So
who
you
run
understand how they work. I want to go back to the point where they take money from the children of Elizabeth. So I think it's important that we understand that I don't support charter schools in Elizabeth. I don't support them here because I think we're doing a great job and we're offering the services needed. And it concerns me that you would allow a charter school, or you would support a charter school in Elizabeth, and you'd be even open to the idea, knowing that that they would take resources away from the children through the school system. So, and I think Mr. Montero's question is valid in the sense that if you're asking us to vote for you in support of this open seat, and I think any question is valid in the sense of knowing your position, because the reality is that the mayor is adamant about this. We can't be naive. You work for the mayor; he's your boss, and I know you're your own man, Stan, and I know you want to believe that you won't be influenced by his policy. But if you're here, you're going to either support his position or ours, and his is that this elected independent school board lose its authority and give it up to the appointed authority of the Commissioner of Education to find the next superintendent for the #1 urban school district in the state of New Jersey. And that concerns me that you won't answer the question.
If I could just add, Mr. President and Mr. Trujillo, that we allowed Mr. Colella to say no comment or to not answer a variety of questions. And we asked him, several people just asked him yes or no question, yes this, yes that, no this, no that. But we've asked Mr. Neron very in-depth questions, and he's answered them in-depthly.
So, with all due respect, you had your opportunity to ask the questions of all the candidates as you will, and I have my opportunity. And Mr. Neron understands exactly where we're coming from.
I totally understand.
If I may, Mr. President, I had the floor.
Hold on. Let me just finish. Let's just finish your comment.
I just wanted to just put that out there, that if he chooses not to say no comment, then we should let it go. Because you obviously let the previous applicant let it go. You didn't answer, you didn't press him. We made comments about, oh, thank you for applying. You work from a heart. All you need is a full heart. All you need is, we need people to step up and show leadership. That's what Mr. Neron is doing. And he has answered every question in-depthly. That's all I'm saying. So that the next applicant, when Mr. Jose comes here, if he wants to not answer a question, we should be okay with that, respect that, and move forward. That's all I'm saying.
If we're going to allow people not to answer questions, they say, well, I have an interview. I mean, the idea of this whole process was to be open to everyone, for everyone to ask questions. I think I have the right to ask you any questions. And again, Mr. Neron, if I have any of my questions been offensive to you or to your family, I want to be the first to apologize. That's not my intention. My intention is to find out who Mr. Neron is and who Mr. Neron would be as a board member, because I will have to work with Mr. Neron if he's the one that's chosen, and I need to know where his heart is on certain issues that are important to me. Okay, so and the constituency that I represent. So it's important for me to know about these things. And again, I think we all have a right to ask these questions. So if anyone here is offended, again, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anyone by any of my questions. I know. After this is over, there will be people that say, well, why didn't you ask him this or why didn't you ask him that? And, Mr. Neron came here to answer questions. He understood there was going to be questions when he got here. Stan, working with children, you obviously work with across the board in the aging group. Do you see a positive impact on the education, on their lives they're receiving here in Elizabeth? Or do you think we're failing those kids? You work with them for such a long time, so you could see. Do you see an impact in them on your daily?
I think you have a lot of great success stories in the city. One of the key things that we go out to do is we go to save lives and we go to educate all our youth. But we win some and we lose some, and that's just what it is. No matter what community you go to, especially here in the city, we win some and we lose some. Same thing that happens with us here at the Office of Youth. We attempt to do the very best we can. That's one of the principles I believe in. Do the very best you can. You're not going to win everybody. Everybody's not going to be a success, but the goal is to make sure that they are.
Do you believe we have a gang problem? You work with our youth. Do you think our kids are choosing gang life over the schools? And do you think we have a gang problem?
Do we have a gang problem?
Yeah, do we have a gang issue amongst our youth here in the city of Elizabeth? Or?
We have a lot of our kids involved in gangs.
We have a lot of kids involved in gangs in Elizabeth? I agree. And it saddens me.
Yeah. But we do our very best to make sure that they get involved in other activity. I think that if we can come to one accord as a city, we can eliminate all gangs throughout the city and throughout Union County, and we can try to, if we stop being so political and we really focus on the issues that are really affecting the lives of our youth, we can eliminate a lot of these problems. And I'd like to start here, by eliminating the back and forth and really focusing on the issues that we have with our children, and really start creating programs and opening up our schools on the weekends, at nights, making them available, creating more enrichment programs in our after-school programs, making sure that, all the school systems that we have here are available to the communities, that people can bring in programs so that we can eliminate a lot of these issues that we're having.
That's an interesting point, that you make, that we open up our schools on weekends, and that I want to segue into the fact that recently we were criticized because of our budget, and doing that, I agree. I would love to be able to open it, especially downtown where I live. I know so many kids that could use the schools on the weekends. How would you pay for that? How would you pay for that? I mean, you have a limited amount of money. You have to either choose between cutting in the classroom, cutting programs, to expand another program. The money has to come from somewhere.
I would apply for grant dollars. I would create community partnerships. I would partner with the churches and a lot of local agencies that would be more than willing to, I'm sure, work with the Board of Ed.
And why do you feel that we haven't been able to do that now? You direct these services on the city level. How come it isn't available now? I've never seen a request from the city to open a school on the weekend.
I think that it's more than just the city. Like I said, we need to establish community partnerships. We need to work with our churches. We need to work with a lot of the other nonprofit organizations to do that. I think it would be, it's a lot on the city, it's a lot on the board, and we need to tap into other resources to do so. I understand. I'm clear about that.
Where is it that it's not happening? Where do you see the wedge where it's not getting done? Why isn't it happening?
Why isn't what happening?
Why aren't the schools open on the weekends? How come these programs you're talking about aren't coming through? Where's the grant money and the partnership with the city and the churches? And
I currently don't sit on the Board of Ed, so I don't.
But you sit as a director at City Hall, okay, and you work with these children, and these services would be provided for those children, why isn't it happening? You have to know why it isn't happening. I mean, if anyone knows, it's you. You would know why it wouldn't happen. How come it's impossible? Is it something we're doing wrong here at the Board of Ed? Is it the fault? Do we not apply for the right grant? Are we not making the right partnerships? What is it we're doing wrong?
I don't know what you're not and not doing, but I do know that, we need to move forward and we need to try to do better. And we need to try to see if we can create some additional partnerships, apply for some grants. I don't know that you are applying for grants. I'm not Director of Youth Services for the Board of Education. I'm Director of Youth Services for the city. So I don't know that you are applying for grants or not. I don't know those things. I'm not privy to that information. So, I really can't answer that question for you.
Okay, understand. Thank you, Mr. Nero. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trillo. Is there any other questions from my colleagues? Mr. Neron, thank you for coming up here today. And again, I commend you for seeking to be on the board. And I also want to, thank you for the work you did with the Haiti relief fund and the earthquake back in the day. I know you were one of the co-founders. Thank you for the work you did.
Thank you to all the commissioners, and thank you for the people that are here with us for being patient. This has been a long interview process, but it's good, healthy discourse. So, have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Neron. Our final applicant of the evening is Mr. Jose Rodriguez. Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening.
Would you like to open up with a statement?
Yes, please. I just first want to thank all of you again.
You speaking to the microphone?
Sorry. I want to thank you all again for this opportunity to apply for a position that, as you all know, I have run twice to try to get. Again, my name is Jose Rodriguez. I was born and raised here in the city. I went actually through School 21 and School 22, which is the Gifted and Talented program. At that point in the Elizabeth school system, Gifted and Talented ended in 6th grade. At that point, the school system was not very good, and like my colleague, Mr. Neron, has said, many people come into a city for education and many people leave. My family was fortunate enough to have the financial ability to leave the city for educational reasons. We moved out, we went to a district, at that time did have better schools, sadly to say. My father and my family had always had a restaurant here in Elizabeth, a Madrid restaurant. I think many of you probably have eaten there once before. So I always had a connection here still to the city. A few years, well not a few years ago, about 10 years ago, we moved back into the city where my heart always was. I never really left here. We had a couple businesses here, so I was always in and out of the city. And I saw a tremendous, tremendous change in the school system. And of course, like I've always said, when you see good schools, you see a good community. Now, I continue to run and I apply for this position because I believe that the work is not done yet. I believe we can still do a lot more work. A little bit about my background. I know you have my resume, but I graduated from Rutgers. I went to St. Peter's University where I received a master's in educational administration. I then took a test and passed. I got a certificate to become a principal, which I love teaching too much. I never really pursued that supervisory role in that sense. This year is my 10th year as a teacher, and tomorrow my high school kids graduate, and it's always great to see our students get pretty much to the finish line. And even though their education hasn't finished, whether they will be going to college, university, or straight into the job market, it's good to see them complete those 12, 13 years of education. So again, I'm here tonight to once again apply for a position that you all know very well that I've been trying to get. And while I've come up to the board and spoken many times, and we've disagreed on many things, I've also always commended you guys on the good work that you have done. And I always have respected the position that you have sat there, and you've taken a lot of heat from a lot of people. And we all know it's a thankless job, but we all know that it's worth it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Comments or questions from my colleagues?
I'd like to start.
Mr. Pereira, speak into the microphone, please.
Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez. Good evening. Again, thank you for coming out, for applying for the position. From seeing, you've been a teacher already for 10 years, you said, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, my question would be in the sense, I understand that your family moved out of the city of Elizabeth, obviously, because they wanted to give you a better choice back then. That I definitely agree with. My question to you as a teacher now, given that what I try to understand is your reasoning to be in here is to give back to the community of kids from Abbott districts. Why, part of your work as a teacher, why wouldn't you have chosen to go to an Abbott district to work versus, let's say, working in what I believe is a Catholic school? Or
No, it's a public school.
It's a public school?
Correct.
But it's not considered an Abbott district, right?
No, that is actually the high school I graduated from.
Oh.
So I actually started in Bayonne High School, which I absolutely loved. And I decided to try to go teach back at my alma mater, and that was really my decision to go teach where I had graduated from.
Okay. Now, the same question like I asked Mr. Neron. Charter schools. How do you feel about charter schools and the fact that what they bring to the table in the sense of funding, taking away funding from the district, and number two, the fact that they're not held to the same standards?
Correct. I'm opposed, to answer your question bluntly. I must commend you at first that a big city like ours here.
I'm sorry, you said you're what?
I'm opposed. I'm opposed to charter schools. And I want to commend this Board of Education and the city. This is probably, I don't know the exact statistics, but this is probably one of the only major cities that does not have a charter school within its borders. And that does speak to what our staff does, and what our staff, our teachers do. But to answer your question, no, I'm opposed to charter schools for that exact reason, because I believe it drains funds. Much needed funds, because even though this budget is very large, we all know that school districts do not have enough money to teach or to actually reach the amount of students. We always need more. And even though the budget, like I said, is very large, it's never really enough. And you have to work with what you have. So any kind of distraction or any kind of mismanagement of funds or any kind of funds that are taken out of that pool, I'm absolutely opposed to.
Good for now. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Mr. Rodriguez,
Ms. Espina?
thank you for coming. Takes courage to come and sit in front of an audience and give out questions. And you are an advocate for special education. I see that you have come quite a few times. Are you teaching special education right now?
Yes, that's correct.
Are you aware that probably teachers will become case managers? How do you feel about it?
Yes, I actually saw that today, that the State Board of Education actually postponed the changing of the regulations. So we're lucky in that sense that those regulations at least are on reprieve for now. So we're not going to be case managers at the moment. But the special education teachers, like in-class support, will not be considered as case managers.
So once you came in about the least restrictive environment, when we talk about least restrictive environment, means that homeschool in district, and you mentioned once that you wanted to have like a special ed school only for children with disabilities. Could you expand on that? Because I don't believe it's the way the state is telling us to conduct special education. What was your reasoning for that?
Sure. Currently, we have about 25,000 students that go to this district. It's about 1 out of every 5 people that live in Elizabeth attend these public schools. And being such a large district, we have because of that, we have a large special education population. Throughout my studies, I have found that there are, I believe, about 213 students that are in out-of-district placements because of special education reasons and special needs. And the average out-of-placement cost to the district is about anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 per student. Calculating that, that's about $20 million that leaves our district and is given to other special education schools that do a good job or may not, or so on and so forth. But, you know, us being the #1 urban school district, I believe that if we can bring those students back into district, perhaps open a special education school, that we can do a great job. I mean, our staff has been doing such a great job with our students, with our special needs population anyway that's in district, that I believe that it's a challenge that this Board of Education can meet. So I have always said that I believe we could open a successful in-district special education school for those children that are severely handicapped.
Which type of disabilities you would think that would be the most appropriate to house a building for this type of children?
Well,
autistic, mentally retarded, SLDs.
Most of the children that are in out-of-district placement are on the autism spectrum. So right away, of course, that would be the first thing that we would not really attack, but look into. Second would probably be the cognitively impaired students, that those children, we may not be capable of taking them in district in the first year or second year, but we could work towards that. But for sure, right away, I would look into, and I would try to get all of you to look into, really try to getting those children that are in the autism spectrum, to bring them back in district.
Well, just a little, we do have autistic programs. We have in 12-1 and school number 30. We also have children, you know, they have different, the Asperger's syndrome and so on, the difference. We do have them in district. We bring back children. We have cognitively impaired children in district. So we do have such a variety. We have multiple disabled children. However, they are in some type of inclusion. They are in regular programs or buildings. I truly believe that, you know, will be like such a big label for them. The only time a district sends a student out of district is because we either don't have the facility or the accommodations. You know, we have exhausted everything in district, and that's why we have to seek it out of district. It's not because, okay, this child has so many issues that is going out. It has to be carefully reviewed, has to be approved by the county superintendent. We have to provide enough evidence that the child could go, and you have to exhaust within the districts in the area or inside the district. So it's not because we just want to send them out. They're carefully approved, but not by all means. And truly, you know, when you think about the least restricted environment, you could include many children in the district, and we have plenty of children, a lot of children. We wish we could open more schools, but with inclusion. We have the pull-out, we have the in-class support, we have the self-contained, we even have the bilingual program, we have the early childhood, we have child study teams for children with, from preschool. The early childhood centers, they have their own child study team. So we do provide a lot of services in district, and the only time that it's considered out of district is because we don't have the program designed for that child.
Correct.
But we do have them in district, and having a building will create, I believe, and that's my personal opinion, create a lot of like excluding, like putting down children, because everybody will know that that building, all children are special education children, and that will be like segregating them and labeling them. And I truly believe that we have done a lot of major gains in special education, and including all these children and providing services within the district and within the community and regular education buildings. So we do a lot of sensitive training. So I don't think there's a need But I don't share your opinion, but I do respect what you have said.
Correct. We have a 10% special education rate here in the city, which actually is normal. It's average. It's not. It just, that's how it is in New Jersey. Most districts hover from anywhere from 8 to 12%, with the average being 10%. So we're right on target in that sense. In terms of, I completely understand, because as a special education teacher, you never want to have a child with special needs feel excluded out of the classroom. I just feel that taking them out of district is already, it excludes them more. While I know, I'm not naive to believe that we can bring back all 213 students, I believe that we can get a majority of them back. We do have, like you said, we do have programs where we do teach children with autism and children who are cognitively disabled, specific learning disabled, so on and so forth. So it wouldn't be that big of a jump to train those teachers more intensively and be able to grab some of these out-of-district placements and bring them back in. And of course, we would work through. I don't expect we go from 213 out-of-district to non-out-of-district, but we could work that in. And I believe our staff is knowledgeable enough, and I know the Board of Education is committed to our students. So I believe that would be the best thing for these children. And while I understand that exclusionary aspect or worry that you have, I just believe that sending them out of district is more exclusionary.
Well, it's expensive, but we don't have the facilities in district. We have exhausted our buildings. It has to do with, having the actual buildings to house the students. In fact, there are times once Elizabeth went to visit my district to bring back the multiply disabled students, and the population grew so much that only few were able to come back. But they do bring them back. And like I said, out-of-district students, even the state is thinking about taking over and paying for it. They were talking about it. I don't know if it's going to happen. But it's not like a decision that you just make this kid is out-of-district. Like I said, you have to carefully review that. So we have to be very careful as a board, how this is managed. And I think, Elizabeth, because we're in urban school district, that's why you see more children going out of district, because we're in urban district and we don't have a lot of facilities to provide. Every child, we have, the law says that you have to provide with a free, public, and adequate, education. And that's what we provide. And when we send them out of district, we give them the best that we can give, because I believe every child has the right to do that.
Correct.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Mr. Rodriguez? I have a few. Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening.
Good to see you again. That's a great tie. You have a great taste in ties.
Thanks, sir.
You've been very critical of this board. And so you're contradicting yourself in a sense today when you're telling us we're doing a lot of good things and how great the district is. So.
No, I've been on record for commending you quite a bit.
Okay. And I know, would you agree that the superintendent is doing a good job?
Yes.
Now, you said you wouldn't, you would bring back a majority of these children that go out of district, and it is a great cost. I thank God we have the ability to pay for it, because it is almost impossible to have the heart to tell a parent with a child with special needs that we can't provide a service for them because of cost.
Correct.
So, it's hard to make that an issue, right? It shouldn't be about money. At the end of the day, we're talking about children's lives, and we need to make sure that we educate them all equally, no matter how they came to the world. We need to make sure that they leave a better person.
Correct.
So how would you propose? We can't open another school for special kids. We couldn't do that. Some of these children have severe disabilities. They need the intensity of the instruction and attention they need can only be provided in a special place. And some of these outer district providers, they provide that. What would you do to those kids? What would you do with those kids? Did you leave them out of district?
Well, correct. Like I said before, I'm not naive in the sense that I believe that we can bring back all the children. For instance, a severely or a child who has severe autism, who has no mobility and who would have to wear perhaps a helmet if he bangs his head. Of course, we would never have the ability to educate that child within district. Absolutely, and of course that's on one side. But a lot of these cases, obviously, I'm not privy to them because they are obviously because of student privacy issues. But a lot of these cases, I believe, especially within the autism spectrum, that we could bring back. Of course, I'd have to sit down. Mr. Spina, I know you are also in special education, and you and I, two heads are always better than one. We could talk about a lot of issues along with other members of the board, and go case by case with the current superintendent or the new superintendent that comes in, and we can make a conscious decision to try to bring these back. While I know a lot of the schools are overcrowded, and I know that for a fact, I believe one woman from the audience was actually speaking about Baton almost having 900 children next year. While I know that our K-8 schools are extremely overloaded, some of them are in modular buildings outside of the actual school. I know the Board of Education has rented out other buildings. But I believe where there's a will, there's a way. And as a special education teacher, while, I believe it's a passion of mine, so I will be advocating for them. So we'd have to work, and that's in the spirit of compromise where we have to find a way. Of course, that's the tough part that I try to tell a lot of people in the district that while you may think we're at odds, believe me, a lot of times I tell them, I go, Board of Education, you have to realize, while it's sad, but sometimes it is about money. I mean, if I can educate one child, sometimes you have to choose between educating one child and 5 other children, then having less of an education because of money. And it's very, very difficult. But that's why I believe that as an educator, as a teacher, and I know I don't want to see a board with 9 teachers or 9 business people. It's the diversity that helps a Board of Education reach. So I believe that just coming in and having a discussion, and even if we have to argue, that's great because we're arguing about the same thing. It's about education and about our children. And hey, listen, I think that sometimes you should argue because that means you're passionate. Those who just sit back, those who sit back and do nothing, they don't have that passion. So I believe where there's a will, there's a way. And we'd have to take a look at, obviously, the long-range facility plan in terms of any new schools coming up, so on and so forth. So, but it's worth it.
Well, I'm sure you're aware. I know you say you sit and go case by case. That wouldn't be your place as a member of this board. We are here to govern and set policy. The superintendent manages the district. He would be the one who decides if you had an idea of a policy that may facilitate your plan, or you would obviously need the votes to do it, and then we could set the policy. You wouldn't be able to go case by case and decide who gets an education out of district and who doesn't. That wouldn't be your place. I wouldn't want the board to decide, any governing body to decide on my child's education directly.
Correct. I would talk to the superintendent.
Yes. You've been very critical of the superintendent. You just said that he's doing a good job, and so I wonder why the two opinions. I'm kind of confused. I remember you holding a press conference asking for his resignation. If he's doing a good job, why do you want him to resign?
Correct, but if you listen to that press conference, the reason that I was asking for his resignation was for other reasons outside of, while I believe that some of the things that he's doing wrong, he did do a lot of good things. I mean, I know that no one is perfect. I understand that. But some of the issues that he was head of the school district during some of those issues, I believe that it was time for him to resign. Correct. Now, I believe he's been doing a great job also, but we all know things come hand in hand.
I'm sorry, you said it was time for him to?
No, I believe that he should have, that I called for his resignation for certain things. Now, I don't want to get into those. You can see the press conference. I wouldn't like to bring those ugly things up here. It's just, I don't believe it's the correct forum for it. But I do believe that he also was captain of the ship while his school district turned around, and I give him credit for that. I mean, we went from, I believe he was here from 2006, correct? 2006, 2005?
It was fine.
From in there. And there's been a huge change since then. But then also in the past few years, there have been some scandals and some issues going on. So, again, it's that duality of every person. But correct, over the scandals that have been going on, any leader, when there's something good that happens, that leader will get credit. But that leader must also expect to get criticism when things don't go. Because while he leads the ship in good times, he also leads that ship in bad times. And while I do give him full credit for, along with the Board of Education, for turning this district around, I believe the last few years he has been embattled in some issues that would lead to me calling for his resignation. Correct.
So, you want him to go or you want him to stay? I'm confused
Well,
there.
he's leaving, so I think that's a new point.
But yes, he is leaving. And but do you want him to leave or do you want him to stay? If he said tomorrow he would stay, would that be something you would support? Do you want him to stay and continue his work, or
No.
do you want him to leave?
No, at this point, he obviously has decided to go. So I believe, he's voluntarily gone to Passaic. Yes, Passaic. So I wish him the best of luck. Because I believe he did a good job, correct? But not lately, no.
Now, the other issue at hand is, as you heard, we asked Mr. Neron earlier in reference to the position the mayor has taken, that he would like the Commissioner of Education to choose the next superintendent. Is that a position you would support?
No, I do not agree with the mayor on that issue.
Do you mind elaborating why?
Because I believe the Board of Education would be best fit at this point to pick the next leader of this district.
Do you believe this animosity between this board and the city administration can be resolved?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
This animosity between the city and this board, the governing body of the city of Elizabeth and the Board of Education, do you think this could be resolved? How would you resolve that if you think it can?
Yes, I think it can be resolved. Now, the second part, how? Well, I think at this point we would have to almost sit down in the same room together. Maybe lock the door and just hammer out something. Because I believe at this point it's come to the point where I think no one even knows it sounds a little childish, but no one even knows who started it. It's like, he started, but it's gotten to the point where it's a tit for tat. It's just this and this and this and that. And we've gotten to the point where it's just, we're butting heads. So I believe how to do it, all get into a room, lock the door, and we're not coming out of there until we hammer something in, or out. And I believe that's the way. In terms of now, what happens in there, I believe both sides would have to go in there with a sense of respect for the other. Because I believe if we went in there already, he did this or she did that, or it's almost, and I don't want to say that you guys are trying. It's not that. It's just it has become, he said, she said kind of issue. So how to resolve it? I think we just need to all sit down together, not in a public forum, just somewhere private, where we leave, check the egos at the door, and we just try to work it out.
Are you running? You could file to run
Yes.
this whole November? You've run twice before, is that right?
Correct.
In those times, you've been supported by our Senator Lesniak, who's a strong critic of this board and the work it's done. Do you support his views of this board?
What views? He has lots of views.
Well, tell me about the ones you know that you support.
Well, you asked the question, so I would just. What views do you believe?
He's constantly criticized as that we mismanage money. Do you feel that we're mismanaging the money of this district?
I think there could be better management of funds.
It's a yes or no question. You think we're mismanaging it?
See, it's not a simple yes or no because I believe mismanaged brings a connotation of willful mismanagement. So I would like to answer in the sense that I believe that the district could manage funds better.
Okay, so you agree with Senator Lesniak that we're mismanaging funds?
No, like I said, I believe that the word mismanagement carries a connotation that I'm not comfortable using.
He's made allegations that every member of this board is corrupt. Do you believe that we're all corrupt?
No, I do not believe you are all corrupt.
You believe I'm corrupt, sir?
No, sir. I believe that everyone, no matter how mean you may see them, how happy or whatever, are good people. And I believe that when you go home, you are a loving father, that your children love you, that your family loves you. So that makes you a good person. And to that end, I believe we can all work together.
Well, you brought your A game today, Mr. Rodriguez. You answered all the right questions today. You've obviously been doing your homework, and I wish you luck. I have one more concern, and it's the funding of your campaign, and that bothers me. Whether you're aware or not, some of your supporters donated to your campaign have been involved in some corruption, risk and corruption. Are you willing to return that money?
I believe they funded a PAC that was run by some other people.
The question is, are you prepared to return that money?
They did not give me money, no. So I can't
So they
return
didn't
money.
support you
that was not
directly,
given.
you're saying?
No, sir.
Who did support you directly? Did you raise your own money at all?
Excuse me?
Your last two elections, did you raise your own money? Do you
Yes.
intend to raise your own money?
Correct, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Trujillo. Board members, Mr. Pereira?
Yeah, I wanted to. Mr. Rodriguez, I think, and I'm trying to recollect, maybe I'm wrong, but in the past, I know that you're very vocal about the high school, the dropout rates and so on and so forth. Now, I believe that you basically were discontent with the fact that we created the 6 academies. So I just wanted to understand, I guess, the logic behind the 6 academies, like not having 6 academies in the district.
No, I guess you misunderstood. But no, I'm not, I'll go on record now. No, I'm not, I think that was a great idea, actually splitting them up and having academies. That was not what I was, I guess, unhappy about. I'll expand on what, I guess, my core beliefs are on that issue. Our dropout rate averages in the past, I believe it was in the past 3 years, we average about 333 children that drop out, that do not finish high school. Now, we all know that they're not dropping out to get high-paying jobs. They're not dropping out because they have a good career path or things like that. They're dropping out. Now, that means in the past 3 years, we almost have 1,000 residents of Elizabeth who have no hope, who have their dreams crushed, and are on the streets of Elizabeth, obviously doing things that we all are affected by. One of my passions being a high school teacher is graduation rates. Elizabeth right now hovers at 65% graduation. Our graduation rate is 65%. That means that 1 out of every 3 students do not graduate on time. Okay, on time. Doesn't mean that they don't graduate. You have to look into those numbers. They just do not graduate on time. To me, that is unacceptable, and I believe that to all members on this Board of Education, I believe that's an unacceptable number. Also, I've been, obviously, like Mr. Trujillo said, I've been doing my homework because this is a passion of mine. In the past 3 years, we actually went from 68% to 65%. While that may not be a statistically significant drop, it is a drop of 3%. And when we're talking about 3% over 25,000 students, that adds to real lives. So my issue, my passion was the graduation rate and obviously the dropout rate. And I have some ideas on how to fix those. And if you allow me, I can expand on some of those ideas.
Sure, go ahead.
Correct. One idea that I have is I've been looking at the high school schedule, and I hope, listen, you can take credit for this, it doesn't matter. I believe that we need to change our schedule. right now, I believe the high schools, if I'm not mistaken, go in at 7:30 in the morning. I believe they leave about 3:45 in the afternoon, give or take. All those class periods, I'm not sure if they're 45 minutes or 48 minutes, but either way, they're less than 50 minutes. And so I believe the children have about 10 classes every day. I believe that we can increase a graduation rate by actually changing the schedule. How? What we would do is we would actually cut down on the amount of classes that they would take, and you increase time in the classroom. So while as a teacher, I know, and we all know that when you first come into class, you sit down, by the time, these high schools are pretty big, so by the time they actually sit down, get their books out, stuff like that, we're already 5 minutes into class. Right? So we're already cutting down on time in the classroom, or actual education time. So teachers need more time, I believe. And I believe that if we can increase time in the classroom, I believe that we can improve education overall, and therefore we can improve graduation rates. And also, another thing is, by increasing classroom time, we actually decrease time that those students are in the hallway. And we know, either way, we know that a lot of the issues, a lot of the violence, a lot of the fights, a lot of things like that happen in the hallways. So not only are we increasing educational time, we're actually decreasing time that these students can cause problems. So I believe that's one of my main issues that I would love to work on you with. There's many studies that I can show you. I'm sure there's just as many studies that could, I can show you many studies where this is, where this has worked in other districts.
Now, but you understand that the high school credit requirements are 160, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yes. So you understand that part of the reasoning why time constraints are in place are in order for the kids to be able to meet that goal of credits, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So then, therefore...
So then, in other words, you would probably decrease then the required credits for graduation from what we currently have. Because to increase time and keep the same requirements for credit, and I'm not a mathematician, it's going to require more funding. Because you have to pay the teachers for a longer day than there currently is, right?
No. I would keep it... Contractually, you wouldn't actually change workload for the staff. I would still keep it... Now, let's say, obviously, this idea passed, or my idea would be, you still keep the actual school day from 7:30 to 3:45, so you actually don't change those parameters. What you would change is, for instance, let's just say each student takes 10 periods a day, and they're 45 minutes, 48 minutes, let's just say. I mean, maybe 9, I forget. But what I would do is you would decrease the amount of class periods during the day, so they wouldn't be taking 10 classes, let's just say. They would be taking 8 or 7, or so on and so forth. But while they're taking less classes during the day, they're actually going deeper into the material. So they would have class periods of 56 minutes of an hour. And that also goes into the fact where our students in college are dropping out at the 50% rate. That means that every child that we send to college, 4-year college or 2-year college, half of them don't finish. And it's not that they finish in 5, 6, 7, 10 years. No, they just do not finish. Another issue I had, along with the scheduling, is that our seniors, who are graduating, I believe, Wednesday, are used to taking 45-minute classes. And next year, come September, they're going to have to be taking an hour and 20 minutes. That's it. So now, our seniors, right, are used to taking 45, 48 minutes. Now, all of a sudden, in 2 months period, they're going to have to get used to double that class period. So I think that already is one setback that our students have. So I believe that also, playing with that schedule will also help them in that issue.
Yeah, I mean, just don't take my question, my line of questioning in any way. I don't think you'll find anybody here that doesn't want to better the graduation rate or make sure that every student and every kid that's going to our school district is able to go to college. Like,
no.
But with that said, I think I applaud you for some of it, but I think in some ways, not that I don't say it's unattainable in the sense, I say that to keep it in the same format to do what you're saying to do, I think would require to cut down our credit requirements.
No.
Because I know that I know for a fact that for core subjects, most of our kids have more time. They don't just do the 45-minute block. They have a larger block of time allotted to them. So there is, I think, electives or so on that are on that 45-minute block that is, I guess, a smaller time frame than they should. But granted, I mean, the world's not perfect, and there may be room to improve time in those allotted slots, but to improve on a full spectrum without affecting the budget and without affecting the credit requirements for those students, obviously which would harm the rest of the population in the district as well, I think might be a bit far-fetched, but I understand where you're coming from. So, but
if I may answer that real quickly, that's not true in the sense that our high school actually, I would not lower the credit requirement. I would keep it at 160, and here's how you do it. Our high school actually did this. We went from the same exact thing, 42-minute periods, 8 periods a day, so on and so forth. It's something called rotating drop. And there's many ways you can do this, but in our case, in our specific case, it's something called rotating drop, where the students actually still take 8 classes every day, or their schedule still has 8 classes, okay? But every single day, they only see 6 of those 8. And why it's called rotating and drop is because 2 other classes every day are dropped, and each one is different. So either way, at the end of the day, at the end of the year, those students still take the same amount of classes. They have 8 classes, so their credit requirement did not have to change. So we had 130 credits, we have here 160. But that credit requirement does not need to change, and those students still have the same amount of classes. Those do not change either way, either. They still have the same amount of time in the classroom. You don't affect workload for the staff. You don't affect the day, and the students on top of it get a benefit by staying in the classroom longer periods of time. And again, like I said, less time in the hallways to cause trouble, and also they're used to a college schedule. And while I know not all of our students go to college, but we at least are preparing those who will.
Okay. The other question
Really quickly, for the sake of time, I don't want to, be here all night, certainly grilling the candidate. Let's keep our questions to be brief and withhold some of our statements, and the candidate to do the same, just for the sake of time. Thank you.
Well, my only other question, I think it was in the sense of the gifted and talented programs, or like schools that are considered lottery. And I think you were against it at some point, if I'm not mistaken, and I just want to understand, I guess, are you against it, first off, and why would you be against it?
Okay. So first off, no, I'm not against it. I think Gifted and Talented is a great program. I'm not obviously a product of Gifted and Talented. What I believe in is something called tracking, that I believe you know what that is, but I'll explain it either way. Tracking is when you actually separate students into academic levels.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rodriguez, let me just catch up for 1 second. I was just told by Commissioner Gonzalez that he has a personal issue to attend to. I believe the property he lives in is the future property. The future property he's moving into is, I believe, a fire, so he has to leave, and I hope
good luck.
everything is well, Mr. Gonzalez. So, thank you.
Sorry. So let me start from again. I believe in something called tracking, which we do here in part, which is we actually separate students according to their academic level. And what you do, the point of tracking, though, is that you're supposed to support these students differently. Because we all know that every student is different. Every student learns at a different rate. So while gifted and talented, I'm not opposed to that at all, and those children get support, I'm also looking at those children who are not as cognitively strong as those in gifted and talented, and we must also support them, and support them in different ways. While they learn differently, does not mean they do not learn. And while the same concept may take them a week to learn, they can learn it. And while someone in gifted and talented may only take a day to learn. And so I'm not at all against gifted and talented, and I believe that is a very necessary part of this district. I also believe that we must support those children who are not at that level.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Ms. Bathos?
Mr. Rodriguez, can you tell me what you would be able to contribute to the Board of Education in the next 5 months?
Oh, absolutely. As a classroom teacher, I believe that any decisions that we make here at the board, while again, this is not a knock, while some of the policy that the Board of Education makes, just because you guys are not classroom teachers, you do not know how that may affect a classroom teacher or a student. And I believe that with my experience as a teacher, I can tell you, okay, this policy, while it may sound great on paper, it's going to affect our staff this way, or it's going to affect our students this way. So I can bring that insight. And then you guys can tell me yes, but this, but no, and that's the beauty of working together and of having a diverse board, is having different points of view and all being able to work together. And again, like I said, hey, everyone's fighting for the same thing, and we all bring different views. So I believe as a teacher, I could bring that. I can bring what exactly will this policy turn into in the classroom, and how will staff see it, and how will it actually affect our children.
Can you tell me one negative and one positive aspect of this district?
One positive and one negative? One positive for sure is our staff. We have great schools. They're proven. You can't dispute our great schools that we have. There's no disputing that. So I believe that is an absolute strength, and we have that. The best of our kids can compete with any other district, and most times probably beat them, hands down. One negative part is I still believe that we have chronically failing schools in this district. And while it's no one person or one thing to blame, it's something that we need to fix, and we need to fix now. Because while it's not an easy problem to fix, every year that we do not fix it or do not put a lot of effort into fixing is more years that we have our urban students disadvantaged. And that's no good for any of us.
Any other questions? Mr. Triolo, you have it.
Mr. Rodriguez, if you were a member of this board and the choice was between raising taxes to continue programs or cutting programs, which would you do?
Say that again, yes, sorry.
If the choice was raising taxes to continue programs or just cutting the programs, which would you support?
Your questions are so black and white, and we all know that in education, in this Board of Education, there's nothing that's black and white. We live, I'm not even on that board, but we know in education we live in a world of gray. So while you want me to answer a question that's so simply black and white, it's hard for me to say yes or no. And you may say, oh, I'm dodging the question and so on and so forth. It's not that. What would have to be part of that decision is, of course, how many programs, what programs, where are they going to be affecting? Then the other flip side is, how much are we raising taxes? Is it a lot? Is it a little? So it's a very convoluted. If you can give me a specific, and I know you may not be able to, but if you can give me, okay, we're going to cut this program, which costs this much, and we're going to raise taxes by this much to keep it, then I can answer those questions. But in terms of a blanket statement, I'm just not comfortable living in that black and white.
Let me try to be specific for you. Extended day is something that we offer in this district that I find that my constituents are very proud of. I as a parent, I'm happy about extended day. And it costs a lot of money to keep these schools open this late. So if you had the choice between cutting extended day and raising taxes 2% to the levy, would you support that?
So you're saying we would need almost $8 million to keep extended day?
Would you cut it?
I I know you're going to say, oh, you're done.
You said if I gave you specifics.
I understand.
That's
I
pretty
understand.
much a cut and dry.
It's-
$8 million or cut the program. Which would you do?
Actually, you know what? I would actually be comfortable in saying that I would raise taxes for extended day. And I would actually go in public to all board meetings, block watch meetings, and I would defend that answer. And I would get my constituents to believe, not only to believe, but to, see, I believe that our taxpayers would not mind paying more money if that money goes to something good. And if they really feel that they're getting what's, their money's worth, well, I don't think 100% of the people are going to agree. I understand that. But you have to make them believe. Not only that, you have to show them, this is why I'm raising, this is why I'm raising your taxes $140 next year, And, the city's not raising taxes this year, but we're taking an extra $140 from your pocket because of this. Because I want extended day. Because I believe that students need more time in the classroom, because I believe this, and this, and I would lay out that plan. So, yes, I absolutely, I would.
Mr. Rodriguez, thank you again for being here tonight, and thank you for obviously, having the courage to come here tonight and be interviewed by the board. And clearly, we always agree to disagree at times, and certainly I'm going to be respectful of your time and hopefully your of ours. And it's certainly clear to me, I've been in elected office and in public life probably was part of my life, and certainly not easy at times. And we all know that too well, everyone that sits up here on this board. But I'm not going to hold back and say I'm certainly not going to be critical of you, because you certainly have been critical of us, and that is your democratic right to do that. So I also respectfully understand that. But knowing that, if I think I heard you right, you said that you called for the resignation of our superintendent, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You also had a press conference in front of, I believe it was School 1.
Correct.
And can you elaborate what the press conference, what the heart of that conference was?
I would like to tell you, you can take a look at the press conference. It was, about 10 minutes long? So there were certain issues that I brought up on the press
What were the issues you brought up?
Oh, geez. What was that, about a month and a half ago? I believe... What did I bring up? I brought up the fact that 2 members on the school board recently have been arrested for theft. I brought up the fact that the school board attorney that used to sit up there was also arrested. I brought up the fact that Mr. Fajardo and Mr. Munoz had mismanaged $63,000 of the district's money and used it, mismanaged, we'll just leave it at that. And yes, I do have I want to have the connotation of mismanaged. And what else? And I'm not sure. I believe those were the major factors. Oh, I brought up the cheating scandal in School 20, and I thought that the culture of cheating in that school was unacceptable. And I'm not sure of the last one, but I believe those were the major topics.
So we can agree that you're pretty much a strong advocate against corruption, I guess.
Correct.
Okay. Would you, and I believe at one time, if I'm not mistaken, you also called for the resignation of then sitting board member Marie Munn?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that you would hold all public servants to those same standards?
Correct, yes.
Sure. Okay. Are you familiar with a story in the Star Ledger this week about the Adelaide Sanford Charter School in Newark?
I did read the article, yes.
did?
Now, how familiar I am with it is a...
Okay.
But yes, I did read the article, correct, yes. That's the one that recently was, their charter was actually revoked, I believe. Is that the one that you're alluding to?
It was a charter school for mismanagement of money, improper leases.
Correct, yes.
Board members that were unethically appointed to the board. You're familiar with the story?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And it was determined that that school will now have to close as a result of those improper actions that will now be investigated by higher authorities such as the State Attorney General. You know the story. Do you know that our current city council woman, Patricia Perkins Augusti, is the school board president of that charter school?
I was unaware of that.
Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't. No.
Well, knowing what I just asked you about holding public servants to the same standards, would you go on her resignation on city council, knowing what you know now?
No, I would call for her to resign as that school's president, but because she didn't use her public office as city councilwoman to do that, I would not call for the resignation of her current elected office within Elizabeth. But yes, I would call if I was more familiar with the story. But yeah, I would call for the resignation of her position on that school board. Yes.
Okay. That's fair. As a city council person, they abide by the same Robert's Rules of Orders, both on city council as well as on that charter school. And it was found that she improperly was appointed as a school board member and then subsequently was immediately appointed as the school board president. So I just wanted to understand your position on if there was double standards. Because as a city councilwoman, there's fiduciary responsibilities that she's aware of on both sides of the fence. She is clearly one of our strongest critical, she's very critical about our school board. And just this week, I think it was beyond offensive to me that she spent her time at City Council last week's meeting attacking the Elizabeth school budget that was passed and ratified by the county commissioner and the State Department of Education. City Council, as well as the mayor, went as far as asking Trenton, the Commissioner of Education, to deny the Elizabeth school budget. Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
Well, I believe, I took a look at it, and if there is a state law that does not allow, especially this Board of Education, along with other officials, but especially this Board of Education, does not allow for you to raise the budget more than 2% without it being voted on. So, as I had told you...
Is it your understanding that we've raised it over 2%? What is your understanding of the current budget that we just passed?
What was the? I know you got some state aid back from Governor Christie, the same state aid that he robbed a couple years ago, but he gave that back. How much did you raise the tax levy for?
Mr. Kennedy, what
was the tax levy?
On a percentage basis?
Yeah,
It was about a little over $3 million increase.
What was the? Do you know what percentage that is of the total tax levy?
Around 7%.
Okay, so according to the state law that I'm familiar with, because the budget or the actual tax levy was affected by more than 2%, this budget should be voted on in November, but the actual percentage that should be voted on is only the percentage above 2%. So therefore, let's just say that let's just say that it does get defeated, this school board would still keep 2% of the tax levy, whatever that actual figure is. But yes, according to state law, if you affect the tax levy by more than 2%, yes, that the Board of Education should have that budget up for a vote in November. So while you can do that, then therefore the state budget should sorry, not the state budget, excuse me, the school budget should be up for a vote this November.
Well, you know, for Mr. Rodriguez, I want, for a point of clarification, that is not correct. Mr. Kennedy, are we within the regulations of the state standards in passing this budget?
Yes, we are, and approved by our county, Union County Department of Education, as well as personnel that review our budget as an Abbott, a former Abbott district, down to the department.
Are we within the governor's guidelines of the 2% cap?
Yes, we are.
How? Yes. If you could explain to me how is it that, well, let's start with this. Is there a state law that saying that if a school budget goes over 2% of the, if you affect the tax levy more than 2%, that there should be a vote on that budget?
Let me help you here, Mr. Rodriguez, because you came to answer questions and not to ask them.
Well, yeah, but
I just want to help you, just so you don't go out. 2% excludes what, Mr. Kennedy? There are exceptions to everything over 2%. That's the question you need to know. It is 2%. We're within compliance.
Okay, but then if you're in compliance,
This, Mr. Rodriguez, gets to the heart of the matter. Why I'm going to have a hard time with certain of the applicants here tonight, because there's going to be a huge disparity between those over with City Hall and those here at the Board of Education, because they play with the words and they play with their doublespeak. When the city says that they're within their 2% cap, and they say that in their tax letter that goes out, they fail to mention that in that 2% cap that they're allowed, then there are exclusions outside of that 2% cap. Okay. Health insurance increases, pension increases, those are exclusions that are allowable. Correct. The city plays with that when they send out their letters saying they're within the 2% cap. The Board of Education does the same and meets the same guidelines and standards as the city, and right away you get this nonsense from the city of Elizabeth asking Trenton to shut down our school budget, but yet we follow the proper process, county superintendent to the state. It would have never been approved if it didn't. So that's part of the problem we have here, as the other applicant, Mr. Neron, said. We clearly have a huge divide between two very large organizations here in the city. Very unfortunate, I may say, the City of Elizabeth and the Elizabeth Board of Education. Can we all just imagine, as John Lennon would say, can we just imagine if we all got along and if we all put the interests first of the city and our children first, how much better the city could be? Correct. See, I have a problem, and that's why, we're going to respectfully maybe disagree, and I'm going to have a problem even with your appointment here tonight. Because and I think your heart's in the right place. There's no doubt your heart's in the right place. I mean, you're passionate for education, being a teacher. I don't doubt that at all. I think that's commendable that you've chosen that profession. It's a very admirable and honorable profession. I think your head and your process in getting there, unfortunately, is a little skewed because of the people who, unfortunately, advising, maybe for lack of it, maybe advising you or guiding you. I am a huge critic of certainly Senator Ray Lesniak and Chris Bowich. They have done good things through the course of their careers. But the one thing they don't do now is certainly respect and understand all the work that has gone on here in the Elizabeth Board of Education. Our superintendent, who I think is one of the greatest superintendents here in the state, who's been highly sought after by headhunters, recruiting firms, not just in the state, but probably throughout the country, because he's turned, at one point, when the school board was controlled by the political forces, many years ago, it was one of the worst school systems in the state. And under Superintendent Palomuno's guidance and leadership we've envisioned, we've turned this district around. You would agree with that, wouldn't you, that we're now in the right direction? You would agree with that?
Well, I would like to respond to all of that all at once. So,
Okay, so the question, you would agree that we've turned this, that we're going in the right direction, would you agree with that?
yeah, can I respond to some other things before then also?
What's that?
Can I respond to some things that were spoken about earlier also, about this cap and all this? May I?
Yes.
Okay. So, first off, I never made an issue with the cap. I mean, that was brought up by...
With what issue?
The issue that you said that the city hall was yelling, whatever it was. I didn't bring this up tonight. I didn't have an issue with the cap or anything like that, with the budget. You know, that was something that you did, Mr. President. In terms of, if you're in compliance, that's great. Yeah, we all know that health benefits are skyrocketing and that pensions are skyrocketing. We have over 4,000 employees in this district. So I completely understand that. Now, in terms of, what was the...
So let me just move on to questions. I think you understand the gist of it. I think we understand whether you serve on this board or not serve on the board. All of us here don't have all the answers. And we'll...
Correct.
We don't purport to be in the know-alls and this is it. We're just, we have legal counsel, we have assistant superintendents, business administrators, and all the time we're going to them for questions because we don't know all the answers. But the one thing I refrain from is attacks or wanting to always disparage people because I believe in solutions first. So it's, Abraham Lincoln said it best, anybody can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. And that's why I try to refrain from that. I think the way to do this is to look for the right answers together. As a board, everyone here would agree that, they work hard. I served 8 years on city council, and I spoke my mind, and I clearly paid a price there too, as I do here. We may all sometimes look like we're in unison and unanimous, but most of the times in private, we disagree on many of the matters. But we try to do it in civil discourse. Elections could be rough. You've had 2 of them. I don't agree with I don't agree with some of your political posturing. I'd say maybe it's hurt you, like sometimes some of our decisions will hurt us along the way, but for every action, there'll be a reaction. One of the flyers that just recently you ran in November was paid for by the Elizabeth Education Future. And you know who that group is, correct?
But I'm not affiliated with that group.
You're not familiar with anyone on the Elizabeth Education Future? Anyone?
If you can give me a list of members, I can tell you if I recognize their names.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you. You're telling me you know no one who makes up the Elizabeth Education Future, the PAC that sent out over a half a dozen mailers on the behalf of there are George Castellinas and Charlene Backus. Are you telling this board you know nobody on that PAC?
I'm sure I do, but again, if you could give me a list of members of that PAC, I could tell you I know them. I don't know them.
Are you familiar with the PAC?
Well, correct. Yes.
Are you familiar with the flyers that they sent out on your behalf?
Some of them I've seen them. Correct.
But
no, I don't work with them.
What's that?
I do not work with that PAC.
You do not work with the PAC?
No, it's absolutely...
Because you're aware they raised...
It's illegal.
You're aware they raised in excess over $100,000.
I'm not aware because I don't work with them. I try to stay focused on...
Well, then let me make you aware of it. They raised over $100,000.
That's a lot of money.
Most of the money,
correct,
if just not about all of it, came from outside the city sources. And you're going to tell this board that you know nothing about this PAC, but yet this PAC clearly spent over $100,000 in promoting your candidacies for the school board. My issue I have with that PAC is the majority of the money came from outside interests. Peerless Beverage Company, an alcohol beverage company. I believe it was over $2,000.
But what does that have to do with me, sir?
Let me finish, because
it would be illegal for me to. It would be illegal for me to work with that.
Mr. Rodriguez, don't play coy with us. You know exactly where the money came from. Please.
Again, tell me a list of the members, and I'll be glad to tell you if I recognize those names.
Mr. Rodriguez, listen, I'm being fair, and you're entitled to your answers. But in all fairness to this board, you had a campaign. Well over $100,000 was spent. It's on the New Jersey election
I did
site.
not spend that money.
You're telling the board you know no one on that pack, you raise them, but you've taken any pictures with anyone on who might possibly be in that pack?
Again, for the third time, if you give me a list of members, I can tell you if I know those names. I can't tell you if I don't know. You have, it seems that you have done a lot of research.
Let me just,
you have done a lot of research on this group?
Mr. Rodriguez.
I believe you know more. So
let me ask you another question. Let me put it in another way. Let's put that aside right now. Why would you think that the International Longshoremen's Association would contribute $7,500 to this PAC to promote your candidacy?
Ask them.
What's that?
Go ahead and ask them.
No, but I'm asking you, why would you think the International Longshoremen's Association would contribute $7,500 to a PAC that would support your candidacy? Why do you think?
I don't know, but I must tell you that my father is a longshoreman for over 40 years. I have many family members who are longshoremen.
Okay.
So wait, Mr. President, I'll tell you one thing. This campaign, I'm going to go to them and see if they give me the money. Because they didn't give me the money.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. So they're an outside group. Why would the corrupt Birdsall Service Company, who was just indicted by the state of New Jersey, contribute $7,200 to this very same PAC that promotes candidacy? Why would they contribute $7,200?
You're asking me to give you. I don't have a crystal ball. You'll have to ask them why they gave their money.
Why would you think they would contribute?
I don't know, and I don't care because they are corrupt.
You don't care that they contributed something, that indicted?
They did not give me the money. Why should I care? They did not give me or my campaign.
Not directly to you, but to an organization that is promoting the election and support of 3 candidates to serve on the Elizabeth Board of Education with all this money coming from outside. That wouldn't concern you?
I think, okay, so I think...
Let me ask you another question. Let me read in another way. If I was running for the Elizabeth School Board and received $7,200 from Birdsall or International Longshoremen, would you show any concern?
Listen, I think...
Would you be concerned?
Can I answer your question? I will. I think what you're trying to get at, but you just don't want to ask me straight up. If Birdsall gave me personally the money, I would give it right back to them. I do not want their money. But because they gave it to a PAC that I'm not affiliated with, that I have no control over, whether I like it or not, that same PAC could have turned around the next day and attacked me for all intents and purposes. I have no control. Not only no control, it's illegal to even speak to the members that you know.
Would you ask, knowing what you know now,
yes,
will you ask this PAC to give that money back?
I'm not affiliated with the PAC. That's not.
I'm not asking you that.
But that's not my business.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking, would you ask this PAC to give this money back? It was an indicted firm that was indicted, in the state by the Attorney General. Would you ask this PAC to give this money back?
Yes.
You would.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't find it peculiar that all this money, in excess of $100,000, which shows, by the way, Birdsall also shows up on the election firm reports of Senator Lesniak's and Mayor Chris Bowich's. Are you aware of that?
No, but you're telling me.
But now that you're aware of it, would you ask them to give it back?
I'd have to take a look, but if I had that kind of access to those individuals, yeah, I would talk to them and let them know, just like let everyone know that corruption shouldn't be tolerated at any level. Like I always said, and I continue to say, Frederick Douglass once said, forgive me, Martin Luther King once said, evil wins when good men do nothing. And so yes, I would take it to a point, if I had access to these individuals that you speak of, I would tell them, yes, that they should do that. That not only is it the right thing to do, it's the politically correct thing to do also. So yes.
Mr. Do you know Jimmy Devine?
Excuse me?
Do you know Jim Devine?
Yes. Yeah,
you do? How do you know him?
I've seen, I think did he write for the Star Ledger or something like that? I know of his name.
He has an organization and a newspaper.
Okay.
Are you aware of that? Are you aware,
so.
Do you know of the Elizabeth Education Watchdog newspaper?
Yes, I know that.
That's Jimmy Devine's paper.
Okay.
You're aware of that? Okay.
If you say so.
You know that, correct?
If if you say so.
No, you just answered, you said you know the Elizabeth Education Watchdog.
I know the watchdog, yes.
Okay. Do you know the Elizabeth Education Watchdog had a function, an event, which that newspaper, which I don't have a copy of it at the moment, all it did and does is attack this Elizabeth School Board. Are you aware of that? Have you ever seen the paper?
Yeah, I've seen the paper.
Yeah. So you're aware that that paper and website, all it does is attack the Elizabeth Education Watchdog.
What does this have to do with my application?
I'm asking you a question. Because it's important for me to know that this is why whoever comes on this board, it's going to be
a newspaper.
What?
I said it's important if I know of a newspaper.
You want to ask us the questions?
No, I'll say that to the end. But
okay. So it's the Elizabeth Education Watchdog, a paper funded by Senator Ray Lesniak, critical of the Elizabeth Board of Education, attack newspaper, had an event at Olay, Club Olay or Olay, it's the big hall on North Broad Street. Were you aware of that event?
When was the event?
I'm sorry?
When was the event?
The specific date, I do not recollect. Did you attend that event?
Which event and what date? Did they only have one event? Did they have many events?
They had one event. The Elizabeth Education only had one event at Club Olay. Did you attend that event?
A few years ago, yes, I did.
You think you did?
No, I did.
You did attend that event?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
At that event, do you know if Senator Ray Lesniak was at the event?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
No, sir.
Okay, well, to refresh your memory, he was at the event.
Okay.
Ray Lesniak, on stage, gave a speech, and the speech was recorded, videotaped. Are you aware?
If I don't know that he was there, I wouldn't know if it was recorded.
At the time of that event, when Ray Lesniak got on stage and made that speech, he said, and I'm going to paraphrase quote, that he is going to destroy the Elizabeth Board of Education. And when he's done destroying the Elizabeth Board of Education, in the upcoming election, which was the election we all had, he said he was going to appoint the next superintendent of schools of Elizabeth, New Jersey, and that superintendent would be Frank Cuesta. Do you recall that speech? Because
Mr. President, again, if I don't recall that he was there, I wouldn't recall.
Well, you recall.
If he was being recorded...
Do you recall that speech?
Hold on. If he was being recorded, then you could show me this record.
You want to see the video?
Yeah, sure.
We will get you a copy of the video.
Thank you.
So Ray Lesniak said that he will pick the next... Do you think that any state senator should tell the Elizabeth Board of Education or the residents of the city of Elizabeth that he would pick the next superintendent?
No, I believe
Have you ever heard him say that the next superintendent would be Frank Cuesta?
No. No, I never heard it. No, I think you believe that I have some kind of access to the senator that I do not have.
I'm not asking you if you have access. I'm just telling you what's real, what's not real. I'm telling you what we discussed here with the other applicants. There's a huge divide in the city between this organization,
correct,
and the city of Elizabeth.
Correct.
And the question that we're asked is, when people say, when or how are we ever going to build or cross that bridge together? I'm not seeing that being possible because from one applicant, I won't have an answer who says he can't see coming on this board, and he doesn't disagree with the mayor telling the Commissioner of Education it's okay to appoint the next superintendent.
But Mr. Montero, no one on either of these sides is my boss. I mean, wait, hold on. I give you respect, I let you speak. While I believe in building bridges, that's not my number one priority. In all honesty, if I can educate these children and we can do the best of our ability and the city keeps, doing what you believe is doing, okay? I mean, no one's my boss. The only boss I have here is my father. I mean, that's it. That's my father and my God and my soul. That's it. I mean, okay, that's great if I build bridge or not. I mean, honestly, not to sound like a jerk, but I really don't care in that sense. What I care about are the kids. I mean, that's my passion. And it may become, you know, oh, everyone says it's about the kids, but it really, really is. I mean, I get, you know, I get.
So, Mr. Rodriguez, listen.
Right.
We know what this is. Would you, running an election in November, would you allow another PAC to run another smear campaign if you had the ability to stop it? Would you allow that PAC to raise money from outside sources if you were able to stop that?
Okay. Well, I'll answer your question, I promise. First off, it would be illegal for me to even contact a PAC like that. But if somehow...
So you had no coordination?
Wait.
Let me ask a question. You just made the point. You had no coordination. You're telling us... Excuse me.
I know, but...
You had no coordination whatsoever. Let's get this very important, because this is for the record. You were stating that Jose Rodriguez had no coordination or contact whatsoever with the Elizabeth Education Future and anyone on that organization. You had no coordination whatsoever, for the record.
That's correct. That would be illegal.
What?
That would be illegal, and therefore no.
So the answer would be no.
Correct? Now, after that, I forget even the question that you just asked. What was the previous question before I was interrupted? Do you remember the question that you had asked me before you cut me off? And
I don't.
No? Okay, I'm sorry.
Important question. I'm going to have to wrap this up because it's going to get late. I mean, clearly, you see, we both share one thing. We probably share it together.
Yeah.
We share the passion. I have been, it was my whole life, born and raised. The attack dogs have come at me every which way. I'm still standing, and I expect more to come. We don't have a weak senator. We have a very powerful, very influential senator who, as you know, for your own campaign, didn't just say it. He boasted about how much he raised for your campaign and how much he was involved in your campaign. He's not shy about that. He's not shy about trying to destroy an Elizabeth school system that has worked so hard over these past 10 or 12 years. So it's passionate to me. These men and women on this board give up a lot of their time. So I take it personally. And I take the nonsense, the political silliness of the season that's going to come and you're calling people corrupted. Because you know what? Whether they're only words, they hurt. They hurt. Because you know what? Like you or I, our family, our dads and moms, who are good people. You know, your father, like my father, are good people.
Correct. And
it hurts them as much as it hurts us when they have to pick up a newspaper, a flyer, when you know it's either doublespeak
it's been done to me.
Just outright a lie.
Correct.
But you know what? I don't think any one of us here have the money. I mean, Ray Lesniak just spent $2 million to run for his re-election, and God bless him, he can raise that kind of money. You look at the report, it's all money from special interest PACs, these political action committees from all over the state.
I would like to make a statement.
Well, I'm just finished because, so there's passion. But you know what? I still love my city, and I'm sure you do. But I've born, raised, and lived here my whole life. And it hurt my mom to see a paper or a flyer that would come out personally attacking me. And you know what? And I go to tell everyone,
I know how you feel.
I'm a big boy.
I know how you feel.
I know what business we're in. You know, and I may disagree with Mr. Neron. Unfortunately, these are political-driven positions because they're government positions. And we put the children in this district first. If we didn't, we would be Asbury Park. We would be Camden. We would be Trenton. We're not. We're the only urban school district, large urban school district in the state, I believe, that has not been taken over by the state of New Jersey. Because the ones above us have, and now Camden below us has been taken over.
Correct.
But you know what? I don't see the senator down in Trenton. I don't see our mayor here in the city, you know, putting us up on the pedestal and saying, what a great job, all you assistant superintendents and well, I don't care about the praise. I don't care about the recognition. I give it up to where it's due. I don't do the hard work. They do the hard work. The administrators, the teachers, and the parents and the children, they do all the hard work. We're just up here as stewards and guardians, okay? So I just take offense, even when you come up now and you double speak, I just would rather have straight answers.
It's not double
Listen,
speak.
a PAC is a PAC,
Correct.
and I know what it is. You know what? When they attack us because, school board employees of the district write a $50 check to support our cause, there's no intimidation, Mrs. Rodriguez. You accuse us of that. There's no intimidation.
No, I haven't.
There's no, well,
I've not
they
accused you of
have.
that. But that's them.
No, Mr. Rodriguez,
Mr.
the flyer
President,
put out by the
you
PAC.
may have run PACs like that, but I haven't. That's not me.
Rodriguez.
It's not. It may be hard for you to believe that I may not be corrupt. It may be really hard for you to believe that, but it's not. I'm
Rodriguez,
not.
you've never
I
heard
do
me.
not share those views with that PAC.
Okay, you've never heard me disparage you. You've never heard me call you anything. I think you've got the passion, and I think you've got the heart, because you're, like I said, you're in a profession that I commend. Now that I've been involved with this, I commend anyone who's a teacher, because it's a tough job, but it's an honorable profession, and I commend you. And I commend you, as I do any one of these applicants, for wanting to serve, if the heart's in the right place. But I also have to be critical at the same time, and honest and open about some of possibly the missteps. Because when you have a PAC that you take no knowledge,
But that's not me.
Okay, but that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, and what I
But
want
I'm
to
here
hear,
telling you.
what I want to hear from the next. Listen, I one vote. I don't speak for any of the other 8 board members on one vote. But I want a board member that's going to serve on this board like the way I feel a board member should. Independent. Independent. I don't need to see his certificates. I don't need to see his degrees. I don't need to see how many awards and trophies he's won. I want to see that board member is going to act independently, think for himself, and think for all the constituency of Elizabeth, not just the students, the parents, the taxpayers.
Correct. And I've shown that.
Collectively. So that's first and foremost. We right now have an administration that clearly doesn't see that, and I take umbrage to that. So that's why I said when I see these things, I have to bring them to your attention, because clearly you have a state senator who's made no more about it. When he takes over, he's appointing Frank Cuesta. If you haven't heard it, we could show you that. Okay. Do you think Frank Cuesta would make a good superintendent?
I don't know his qualifications.
Okay.
I don't know.
Probably my last question.
I don't know.
Because I don't know right off. I just
No, listen, Mr. McClure, I understand. I truly understand how to be an effective teacher, you have to put yourself in the shoes of others, and actually just to be a good person, a good human being. And I understand. I understand that those political forces and what they've, I'm not an idiot, I've heard them, I've read, I've seen what they've done. And I understand why you are angry, or, okay, maybe angry may be a wrong word, but why you're passionate about kind of attacking them back, and whatever it is. But that's not me. I don't work for City Hall, I don't work for the Board of Education, I don't know, they're not my bosses. No one is. No one is. Again, like I told you, my only boss is sitting back there. Is he still here? So that's it. That's my only boss. That's it.
I think it's your father. I wouldn't be
boss.
He's a great guy. I know your father. We go way back. He's a great man.
And I know you want to think that I'm, part of them or this or that. No. They may support me, they may say go for it, but you know what? They know that this is a passion of mine. No one's going to touch me for that. And if it is, and if they think they can, which they can't, this is me. It's me. I'm running 3 times. Okay? This is a passion of mine. This is what I want.
I think we both share something certainly in common. And again, Mr. Rodriguez, listen, never to disparage.
No,
I would never. I think it's the most commendable thing anybody
I didn't take it
in
that
the
way.
office, because anyone to step, it's courageous. Certainly, anyone who would want to step into our shoes or any elected office, I think it's courageous. And again, I think it's always easier for anyone who wants to be a critic. I think those are just the cowards, because for me in life. The cowards never start, the weak, never finish, and the winners never quit, okay? I've never quit, and I've been beaten down, and I've been attacked, and I'm sure it's going to continue. I won't quit. As long as I got breath in me, my parents,
This is my third time. I'm not quitting. Right.
And I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not right all the time. And I think Charlene, your running mate, could say, we try, we learn things, we try to extend every courtesy, but I don't think, we're much different. I mean, we may see things sometimes differently. We may disagree on, whether this should be on this side or this should be on this side. But I think collectively we try to work together. We're respectful of each other. So it's personal. It's personal. Because I've been in this now.
And like I said, I understand that. I understand that.
And that's what. So really, my final question to you, Mr. Rodriguez: do you believe that the Elizabeth School Board should be independent from the elected machines of whether it be the mayor or the senator? Do you feel we should have separation of both City Hall and the Board of Education? That the mayor and the senator and any other, big officer should involve themselves in the Elizabeth Board of Education? Do you believe we should be independent?
100% yes.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I have no further questions. Okay, see you now, Mr. Rodriguez again. Mr. Rodriguez, please, it's not personal, and to any of the candidates here tonight, certainly not a personal thing. It's just it's passionate to me. I guess maybe because you have been a critic and every right to me. I mean, anyone who comes to these board meetings and public speaking, and I've afforded them the courtesy, as somebody knows, meetings, they used to be at the end of the meetings, and I brought them to the front of the meetings. Just like even in the appointments here tonight, we're trying to make these meetings even more transparent, whether or not I'm one vote who gets appointed tonight. But again, it wasn't done like this. So, with the support of Charlene and others, we are trying to move this board and be as transparent as possible. And we're human. We make mistakes along the way. We're not infallible. But again, I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank even the audience tonight. Those who came out and those who were very vocal in the audience. I understand these things sometimes get very passionate, and even the one that's in the corner. You understand that?
Mr. Montero,
Thank you.
if I can, would you be able to call up Mr. Colella back? I just have two questions.
No, I'd rather just shut this off because if not, we're going to. I think we're giving everybody ample opportunity.
Well, I mean. According to Mr. Marvin, there's no time limit. So, I mean, if I could just ask those two questions, I would appreciate that.
I would rather just cut this off because I think it's already limited. I would rather, listen, excuse me. I think in all fairness, we have done beyond more than we have done in the past. And when I wait. In all fairness, I want to do this now. I think I'm going to ask for the vote. I think one of you have heard all the candidates that spoke.
Is there a motion to call the question?
What's that?
Is there a motion to call the question?
Yes, I'd like a motion to call the vote. The question for vote.
Mr. Marvin. No, Mr. Marvin.
Motion by Mr.
Can I still ask my question?
Seconded by Commissioner Espina. No.
May I make a final statement?
So, I'm sorry?
Can I make a final statement?
No, we have to take, we now have Robert's Rules of Order, we have a motion, we have a second.
I just want to
We
say
have to
thank
take
you.
a vote. What we're going to do now is, Mr. Lehman, I think, rather than having motions on each of the candidates, I would say we vote from roll call by Mr. Kennedy, and each board member give us a name until we have a majority, and that will be our selection process. Mr. Kennedy, take a roll.
If I can I please?
Thank you.
Good job, Jose. Mr. Kennedy, roll call.
Ms. Baffles, your vote.
In order for me to make a clear decision, I just wanted to ask those two questions. Is that against?
We have the Robert's Rules of Order call. We have a motion and a second. Take a roll call.
Is it in your bylaws for him not to come back?
Baffles.
Can we amend the vote? Can we amend this vote that's out right now?
Just take a vote right now. We have a motion and a second. We have to do a roll.
Yeah, can we amend this vote? Mr. Marvin, can you tell me?
I didn't hear your question.
According to the Robert's Rules, there's a motion on the floor. Can you hear me? There's a motion on the floor right now, and someone seconded it. can we amend that vote right now so that I could pose my question to the candidate?
You would need a second to do that.
I second it.
Well, I mean, listen, to my colleagues, I understand, listen, can y'all relax, please?
Guys, can I have order in the room, please?
To my
We
colleagues.
were respectful, we've been respectful all night long.
You've
Thank
been
you.
a bully all night long.
Okay, to my colleagues, I understand that it's 11:30 at night. You know, please, I just want to ask 2 questions, and it'll be quick. It's not like anything, long term, whatever. I understand we gave ample amount of time to both of the second candidates. If I could just have maybe 2 minutes to just pose Mr. Stefano 2 questions. If someone could please second that, I would very much appreciate it.
They won't dare
We
step out.
have a motion on the table now.
No, I would like to amend that motion.
Robert's rules, we have to vote on the motion we have on the
To
table.
hold the
Not
vote.
a second.
We would have to amend the motion, correct?
No, there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded. There's a motion on the floor that's been seconded. It's time now to vote.
Can you check Robert rules to see if we can cancel that motion or?
No, there's no further discussion after a second motion. You have to take the roll call.
I don't think that's true.
Mr. Freeman?
Pardon me?
Is that true?
Once you have a motion and a second, according to Robert's rule, is there any further discussion?
No.
Bathos.
What's your vote?
Stanley Neron. Stanley Neron. Stanley Neron is my vote.
Guys, can we have some order in the room, please?
This is a motion to hold the vote, correct?
What's that?
A motion to vote is on the table.
This is a motion for the vote, to hold the vote.
Yes.
We have a motion.
So yes or no?
So I have to say yes or no to hold this vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Castilla.
So all the board members understand this is a yes, no answer. This is the motion, the second to hold the vote for the vacancy.
Yes. Castilla.
No.
Hadler. Yes, vote now. Yes. Pereira.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Montero.
Yes.
The motion to hold the vote passes.
Okay, so we have a motion to hold the vote. So now we're going to take a roll call on all the board members to select one of the names of the 3 applicants until we reach majority.
So please vote by last name of the 3 candidates.
Yes.
Bathos.
Neron.
Castilla.
Mr. Calella.
Hadler.
Mr. Colella.
Pereira.
Mr. Colella.
Trujillo.
Colella.
Montero.
Colella.
Yeah, what's he, a yes, no man, sir?
Mr. Montero, Mr. Colella fills the vacancy.
That's full of
Thank
shit.
you.
You always hold on now. You say he's a yes, no, sir.
I just want to make a...
Mr. Montero, would you bring order to this room, please?
I just want to make a comment, if I can, that definitely there was 2 other candidates in the room that probably deserved it more than Mr. Colella. You know, we asked for someone to step up and show leadership, and honestly, through the interview that Mr. Colella had, he definitely did not show any leadership. He was not able to articulate his thoughts. We need someone on the Board of Education that's going to stand for what they believe is right, and I don't think that he does. So I really do think that this was all a setup already. You know, and that's
Any other comments? Mr. Trio?
Yes, I do have a comment. I believe we did what the public had asked. They wanted interviews. They wanted the opportunity to apply for the position. They got it. They were questioned. They had the opportunity to answer. I don't know what else we could have done for them. Although Ms. Bathurst doesn't agree with the outcome, it's certainly her right not to. Unfortunately, that's the way democracy works. You have to have a majority in order to move your agenda, and you know you chose your candidate, and it wasn't the candidate of the majority, and that's just the reality. That's the way it works. It works here. It works across the country that way. You have to have a majority. Mr. Colella is a fine man. I know him well. Although he may have been nervous when he answered his questions. He isn't a politician like the other two. He is a community man. He's a good man. And I think his tenure here on the Elizabeth Board of Education will be filled with hard work and with a good heart. I know Mr. Colella for over 30 years. We have a childhood relationship, and it's easy for me to support him. I didn't need to ask him a lot of questions because I know what Mr. Colella's heart is. It's with the citizens of Elizabeth and it's for the children. And I'm honored to have someone like Mr. Colella represent my children on this board. So that's my 2 cents in the whole thing, and I congratulate Mr. Colella, and I hope that Mr. Kennedy can swear you in.
Oh, and I also want to say that I definitely took offense to the personal attack about you saying that I claim to build bridges, but so far I haven't built any bridges. At the end of the day, I still want to, unite both the city and the Board of Education. And although I've been on the board only for approximately, let's say, 6 months, small changes are still happening. So although I may not have made major changes, small changes are being made.
Can I make a comment? I just want to say, when I base my decision, I think there was a little bit of too much conflict. And when you have someone that sits here and talks from the bottom of his heart, I do have a lot of respect for that person. Also, we are a good example to our children. What happened here is not a good example, and I hope our children ever see this, the way parents behave, the audience behaving here. We need to respect each other. That's why we pledge the Pledge of Ethics. I think every parent that walks in here, every person that walks in here should have a copy of it next time. Thank you.
Any comments? Also, I want to acknowledge and recognize our new board member who's going to be filling in, and for the record, he's going to be filling an unexpired term that will go until the end of this year. And certainly, you're never going to ever please everyone on every side, but clearly today you can still see clearly from our board members as well as the audience, there is still this huge divide between us and the city. Don't know how or when that will change, but clearly it's apparent to us. I could not support Mr. Neron just on that one question alone, where he would have no comment on if he was to serve on the selected school board, that he was okay with the fact that the mayor was asking the Commissioner of Education to pick the next superintendent. That alone, I would not support his position on. And Mr. Rodriguez, I still could not accept the fact that he was the one and openly admitted to calling for the resignation of, I think, one of the most upstanding superintendents in this state, and he was okay with that. And then clearly, the fact of the matter that with the political campaigns of the $100,000 of a very expensive race that backed both him and his running mates, Ms. Bathurst and Mr. Castellinas, It was a campaign that raised over $100,000. And again, very sad because we get criticized, condemned all the time by the senator and the mayor when people in this district support a group of people who support good education and support the good things that this district has been doing. And then they spin the misinformation that the schools or the board are intimidating people. And I can tell you that is the farthest thing from the truth. We are proud, so proud of the hard work that's being done here at the Elizabeth Board of Education. And again, I just want to extend our thanks to all the men and women of this district who work day in and day out, starting from the top, our superintendent, to our assistant superintendents, Ms. Barrett, Mr. Dunn, Ms. Olga Ugemeyer, and then all the principals, vice principals, teachers, support staff, custodians, security, secretaries, food services. Can't thank them enough. And we want to give credit where credit is due. And Mr. Colella, I think you'll understand that better than anyone here on this board when you come on, that we don't ask you to vote a certain way or ask you to do something that you would ever feel not comfortable in doing or voting in a certain way. We hope you come on the board and are your own man, think independently, and aside from what may be written or may be said, because I'm sure in the days ahead, the craziness and the silly season will begin and the spin will start, and the very things you're going to hear more of the same, more of the arrows will come, more of the attacks will be forthcoming. But never forget this, as I tell everyone else, never forget, it's keep focused and stay focused. The momentum is too great that we should stop here now. We're the #1 urban school district in the state of New Jersey. We have 2 nationally recognized high schools in the country. Our high school is now #1 public high school in the state. We have 3 national blue ribbon schools. We have over 25,000 children in uniforms. And remarkably now, our population in our schools are actually exploding, and it's certainly not because people are building more homes, because now people are moving back to the city of Elizabeth. And that in itself is a credit to, it'll be another problem for the school board to deal with because, overcrowding. But you know what? We're proud of that people are now, once that moved into towns like Roselle, Linden, Rahway, Union, are now moving back to the city of Elizabeth because our school systems, because of our school systems. You've never heard that before. I used to hear as a city councilman, it's a shame I have to move out of town because our schools aren't adequate. And now we've turned that corner, and rather than the mayor working with us, rather than the senator working with us, they want to come and continue to inject their politics into our school system. And it's unfortunate, because people that know me and those that come to these meetings know that I answer to no, and I don't answer to one political party or the other, or one politician or the other. I think we need to take politics out of our schools and leave them out of our schools. We don't need the mayor, nor the senator, or the governor coming into our school system telling us who we should pick as the next superintendent. We don't think they should appoint our Board of Education members. We think this board and the leadership of people like, Mr. Trujillo, Mrs. Spina, Mr. Padlo, I think their leadership and their courage in moving this district forward speaks volumes. You know what? And to all of you and our administrators who work day in, day out, you guys get kicked in the head sometimes too when we have to pick up newspapers. I know how much it hurts. Mr. Colella, I'm sure you're going to have to prepare for some of that. It's a part of the journey that is not fun. I mean, today should be certainly a great moment. You're stepping into the shoes of the Elizabeth Board of Education, one of the most, I think, revered boards. In spite of what's written out there about the Elizabeth Board of Education, and mind you, it's written by people like the mayor and others who would rather attack us than support us. Rather than praise us, they'd rather criticize us. And that's just not fair. Because it's not fair to, like I said, not to the board members, but to the people who work so hard day in and day out, and to the parents who see the progress, to your two nieces who see the progress of what's going on here in the city, and they're proud of the Elizabeth school system. And they know what's going on. And that, Mr. Colella, is what you need to take forward. And to always remember, forget the naysayers, forget the critics, stay focused, stay positive. We have a vision and we have a mission. And we've only achieved probably half of that. We said we're now the #1 urban school district. We're not stopping until we're the #1 in the state, but we're really not going to stop until we become the #1 public school system in this country. And we welcome you aboard. And now I'm going to ask that you please step up and be sworn into office by Mr. Kennedy. Thank you.
If I could just say one more thing, Mr. President.
Are you going to, somebody's going to hold back?
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state, under the authority of the people. I,
Stefano Calella,
do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education, that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to the revised statute NJSA 1941, that I am not disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJSA 18A 12:1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
For the next meeting. Welcome and congratulations, Mr. Colella. We're going to go into any old business. Seeing none. Any new business. Seeing none. Mr. Kennedy, I just have something really quick and something that it could be looked into by the next meeting, and I just shared with our Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Barrett, and obviously I want Mr. Lehman to look into it. It was brought to my attention, or someone sent something to me this morning about something that may have been posted on, I believe, a website called Craigslist, and it was a dental office offering Elizabeth High School students who need to complete their community service hours was offering them to come to their office and for duties that would include filing, pulling charts, helping patients, which sounds like, I know it's something this board does not do. I believe it's just, all hooey or hogwash, and I don't believe it's probably, I'm going to ask, obviously, the board administrators to look into this and clearly investigate, call, that dental office if it even exists. But more importantly, what I'd like to have happen for the next meeting is to possibly have our legal counsel, along with the board administration, to draft some sort of policy in regard to this, in regard to this matter of community service hours, so that at the next meeting we can discuss. Okay, great. That's all I have. Is there any other? I just want, for the record, I just want people at home to know that whatever that was out there and whatever people are writing on these websites and forums, we have to take these things with a grain of salt, because there's a lot of that craziness, and then people go ahead and they, again, more misinformation about the Board of Education. Not true, doesn't happen. We just went through that a couple months ago where kids were being accused of getting, community service hours for political campaigning. Once again, that is not the policy of the Elizabeth School Board, and I'm going to make sure this clearly is not the policy of the school board. And by the next meeting, I just want to get, our arms around this, clarify it, and make sure, and possibly even make sure that we have approved organizations here in the city that we, the board, can approve that they would qualify for these service credit hours. That's all I have. Is there nothing else for the business? No.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. President.
Motion to adjourn by Carlos Shahilo, seconded by Mr. Pereira.
Castillo.
Yes.
Padla.
Yes.
Carrera.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Montero.
Yes, meeting adjourned.